Hey everyone, this is Light Novel Sound. Thanks so much for tuning in. If you're enjoying the series, feel free to leave a like and drop a comment below. It really helps the channel. And if you'd like faster updates or want to request a story, you can support the channel over on Buy Me a Coffee. Now, let's pick up the story where we left off. Chapter 476, No Way Out. While Barbara was feeling alarmed, Zhou Wen's figure flashed as he ran towards the other end of the street. His speed was so fast that she couldn't see his trajectory. He was like a ghost, appearing once in a while at an unbelievable speed. Medusa let out a sharp cry as though she had turned on an accelerator and chased after Zhou Wen. Zhou Wen hadn't planned on fighting Medusa head-on. The injuries on his body hadn't healed yet, so it wasn't suitable for him to fight a high-intensity battle. If it was a battle, perhaps an intense clash of strength would tear his organs apart once again. He continuously used ghost steps. Thanks to having infinite essence energy because of Slaughterer, Zhou Wen could use ghost steps continuously. He lured Medusa towards the sea. Seeing that Medusa had been led away by Zhou Wen, Barbara hurriedly jumped off the building and ran towards where Lucas had fallen. Lucas spat out a mouthful of blood. Some of his skin had already been petrified, but it didn't look too serious. Before Barbara could even reach him, Lucas had already crawled out of the ruins. "Where's Medusa?" Lucas looked around but did not see Medusa. "The youth who came with you led her over there." Barbara pointed in the direction that Zhou Wen had left with a strange expression. Then she couldn't help but ask, "Lord Lucas, who is he?" He's actually able to ignore Medusa's eyes of petrification. Furthermore, his speed is crazy fast. I've never seen anyone as fast as him. Barbara wanted to say that he was faster than Lord Lucas, but she swallowed her words in the end. "He's a friend of mine. He's a stronger hero than me." As Lucas spoke, he went in the direction that Zhou Wen had lured Medusa away. A hero even more powerful than Lord Lucas. But he's still so young. How is that possible? Barbara was shocked. Gritting her teeth, Barbara saw a motorcycle beside her. As the owner was petrified and the key was still in it, she immediately got on and turned the key. The motorbike came to life normally, and she chased after Zhou Wen and Lucas. It wasn't just Zhou Wen. Many epic experts in the city had chased after them. Although they didn't dare to go head-on against Medusa, they couldn't just let Medusa do as she pleased. Unfortunately, they were much slower than Zhou Wen and Medusa. Soon, they were left behind. Boom! Medusa's body slammed through the thick wall and directly came out of a building. The venomous snake's head spewed venom as it rained down on Zhou Wen. Zhou Wen flashed to the back of another building. The venom splattered on the wall, causing many holes to appear on the wall made of concrete and steel. Despite using ghost steps continuously, Zhou Wen wasn't as fast as Medusa. He had to rely on various buildings and terrain to barely ensure that Medusa wouldn't catch up. Medusa's speed is really too fast. If it were another non-speed type mythical creature, I wouldn't have to go through so much trouble. Zhou Wen's figure flashed as a devilish gaze nearly grazed his cheek, exploding a cafe. Zhou Wen leaped into the air and avoided the flying rubble and various glass shards. He stepped on a piece of flying glass with his toes and used ghost steps to propel himself again. However, before Zhou Wen could land, Medusa had already rushed to the spot where he landed. A venomous snake swept over. Instantly, he switched to the god-fiend Life Providence. The white shadow of poison appeared behind him and flapped its wings. Zhou Wen's figure charged into the sky, dodging the venomous snake's devouring. Medusa suddenly exerted strength in her feet as the hard concrete ground cracked open. She leaped into the air like cannonballs as she chased after Zhou Wen. She shot out shocking finger beams as her palm grabbed at Zhou Wen's flying body. Zhou Wen's body drew a strange arc in the air like a flying immortal. There was something elegant in the midst of a close call. He dodged Medusa's repeated attacks and charged into a building that had over 20 floors. Boom! Medusa also crashed into the wall, causing a huge hole to appear in it. Fragments splashed out everywhere. Zhou Wen lured Medusa all the way to the seaside. He had originally wanted to escape from Medusa in the city, but he ultimately failed. All he could do was attempt to escape through the sea. As he was chased and fled, Zhou Wen tried his best but was only barely able to avoid being caught by Medusa. It was impossible for him to counterattack. Even if he were in his best condition, he would not be a match against Medusa. After running for more than an hour, he finally arrived at the beach. Zhou Wen plunged into the sea and unleashed the 9 dragons' art, swimming deep into the sea. Although there were many dimensional creatures at sea, it was not easy to find a terrifying existence like Medusa in it. However, Zhou Wen soon realized that his decision wasn't that correct. After Medusa chased him into the sea, her speed wasn't affected at all. She was still as fast as before. The head of the venomous snake became even more agile as it constantly attacked Zhou Wen like a fish in water. Zhou Wen immediately recalled that in legends, Medusa seemed to have an affair with Poseidon. Fighting in the sea wasn't difficult for her. In the sea, it was disadvantageous for him to use ghost steps. All Zhou Wen could do was rush out of the sea and use the god-fiend life providence to charge into the sky. Medusa probably doesn't have the ability to fly right. I'll flee to a high altitude. I don't believe she can still catch up. Zhou Wen tore out of the water and summoned White Shadow of Poison to flap its wings again as he charged towards the sky. Medusa also leaped up from the sea like a ferocious sea monster. She bared her fangs and brandished her claws as she charged at Zhou Wen. Light constantly shot out from her eyes as her snake hair swept towards him. Zhou Wen's body constantly changed his position as he drew a strange arc with his figure. He moved in the air as though he was on the ground. He constantly borrowed force to dodge Medusa's repeated attacks. Boom! Gravity took over Medusa's leap as she fell back into the sea. The waves that were dozens of feet high were stirred. She really could not fly. Zhou Wen was immediately delighted. Back in the game, he had been sealed in the palace. He had no chance of flying into the sky. He never expected Medusa to have such a weakness. However, before Zhou Wen could be happy, he saw Medusa spread a pair of swan-like wings behind her back and fly up again. FKU. Why didn't you use your wings just now? Zhou Wen could only continue fleeing, but he still couldn't escape Medusa. He was chased to the point where he had nowhere to turn. Chapter 477. Nowhere to turn to. I can't keep running like this. How can I get rid of her? Zhou Wen wasn't as fearless as Lucas. He only wanted to get rid of Medusa now. As for whether Medusa would harm the world in the future, that was not something he could control. Anyway, he did not want to die. Suddenly, Zhou Wen's heart stirred as he flew in one direction. He headed for the island that Xianxia had taken him to. Zhou Wen thought that he might be able to use the magical waterfall and pool to escape Medusa. This was because he had already cleared the dimensional zone and had left his name on the golden monolith in the dimensional zone. He wouldn't be trapped inside worrying about not being able to leave. As long as he could avoid Medusa's pursuit, he would quietly hide inside for a period of time and wait for Medusa to leave before coming out. He didn't have the strength to kill the black six-winged dragon again. He had previously joined forces with Xianxia, and with Zhang Yuzhai's help, they managed to kill the black six-winged dragon. He was alone this time, and had yet to recover from his serious injuries. If he really angered the black six-winged dragon, he would probably die. Zhou Wen lured Medusa to the island. After a while, Lucas and the group of epic experts finally reached the beach. They discovered traces of battle on the beach, but they failed to find anyone. One of the trembling residents by the beach told them that they were heading towards the sea. Medusa was already extremely terrifying, and there were even more dimensional creatures on the sea. When the other epic experts heard that Medusa had been lured to the sea, they secretly heaved a sigh of relief. They thought with luck, perhaps Medusa won't return after being lured to the sea. Lucas ignored everything else and jumped onto a boat, prepared to start the engine and venture deep into the sea. "Master Lucas, I'll go with you." Barbara arrived on her motorbike and threw it onto the ground before jumping onto the boat. "Quickly disembark it." "The sea is too dangerous," said Lucas. "Lord Lucas, have you forgotten? I came from the sea to the peninsula of gods. I'm a daughter of the sea, so I can help you track your friend and Medusa at sea. You are just one person. You won't be able to find them even if you're on a boat." Barbara had already started the boat. Lucas thought about it and agreed. Looking at the boundless sea, he only knew the general direction. He had no idea how to find Zhou Wen and Medusa. "Then fight alongside the great Lucas, girl," Lucas said as he stood at the bow of the boat and looked at the sea. After great hardship, Zhou Wen finally returned to the island where there were water sprites. Now, he wasn't in the mood to kill them. He rushed to the waterfall on the island and plunged into the pool. Boom! Just as Zhou Wen entered the pool, Medusa's gaze landed on the pool, blasting a curtain of water several meters high. After the pool calmed down, Zhou Wen was gone. Inside the cave, Zhou Wen followed the water and quickly exited the waterfall cave. Zhou Wen heaved a sigh of relief when he didn't see Medusa. He thought to himself, "Medusa better not jump in here when she can't see my corpse in the pool." However, his worst fears happened. Zhou Wen could only hear the splashing sound of water coming from the cave. Medusa had already rushed out of the water. "I'm screwed." Zhou Wen hurriedly burrowed under the pool, hoping to get out again. However, Medusa's snake hair had entered the pool. It was already a snake's nest. Countless venomous snakes were wriggling in the pool. "This fellow's intelligence is too high. She actually knows how to sever my retreat." Zhou Wen felt depressed, but he had no choice but to move his body to dodge Medusa's attack. Boom! Boom! Medusa's gaze randomly shot out in all directions, causing the surrounding rocks and grass to explode, creating a loud boom. Zhou Wen immediately felt that something bad was about to happen. It was already difficult to deal with Medusa. If she made a scene, the black six-winged dragon would definitely be awoken. If he were to face two terrifying mythical creatures, wouldn't he die even more tragically? Now, Zhou Wen wished he had an invisibility cloak and could immediately disappear in front of Medusa. Roar! An angry roar came from the center of the island. As expected, the dragon was awakened and turned into a black lightning bolt that rushed over. "Please bless me." Although they are dimensional creatures, they aren't of the same species. They might be enemies. Let them fight it out. Zhou Wen prayed inwardly. Unfortunately, he soon realized that he was being too naive. After the dragon rushed over, it ignored Medusa and opened its mouth to spit out a venomous smoke at Zhou Wen. This is really bad. Zhou Wen suddenly realized that he shouldn't have come here. It was too late for regrets. There was a black dragon in front of him and Medusa behind him. They attacked Zhou Wen one after another, completely cutting off the possibility of him escaping. Even if he used ghost steps, it was impossible for him to be faster than two mythical creatures. Whether he advanced or retreated, he was doomed. Seeing that the two mythical creatures had surrounded him and leaving him no chance to escape, Zhou Wen gritted his teeth and switched to the god-fiend Life Providence. The Lost Country ring appeared on his finger. After spinning the ring, Zhou Wen's body immediately vanished from the middle of the pincer attack. Lucas and Barbara were in the sea searching for traces of Zhou Wen and Medusa. The more Barbara searched, the more depressed she became. Finally, she couldn't help but say to Lucas, "Lord Lucas, I'm afraid that your friend is doomed. Although he's very powerful, it's very difficult for even a god to survive against an existence like Medusa." "No, Barbara, you underestimate a friend of Lucas too much. He's just like me, a great human hero. I firmly believe that he's safe and sound. Perhaps he has already killed Medusa. We have to find him as soon as possible. We can't let him enjoy the glory alone." Lucas's face was filled with determination as he stood at the bow of the boat and surveyed the surrounding sea, searching for Zhou Wen. "That's impossible. That's Medusa. She's a mythical demoness. Even the mythical human prince had to borrow many divine artifacts from the goddess of wisdom to defeat her." Barbara grumbled internally, but she didn't dare to say it out. "There seems to be a small island over there." "Let's take a look," Lucas instructed. On the island, Zhou Wen's figure appeared on the black six-winged dragon's back after a momentary disappearance. Without any hesitation, Zhou Wen wrapped one hand around the black six-winged dragon's neck. On his palm was a silver spider web glove. After touching the scales on the black six-winged dragon's neck, it immediately stuck firmly to it. Chapter 478, Monster Battle. Upon sensing Zhou Wen on its back, a terrifying black flame immediately erupted from the black six-winged dragon's body. It wanted to shake Zhou Wen off its back. However, Zhou Wen was already prepared. He transformed into the demon dragon true body and stuck to its body, allowing the black flames to erupt without letting go. Medusa was originally attacking Zhou Wen, but because he was on the black six-winged dragon's back, her gaze immediately landed on the black six-winged dragon. The eyes of petrification landed on Zhou Wen. Through the use of the truth listener earring, this replenished his essence energy, allowing him to maintain his demon dragon true body state. However, the black six-winged dragon did not have such an ability. The scales on its body actually began to turn into stone when Medusa's eyes of petrification looked at it. Roar! The black six-winged dragon flew into a rage as demonic flames rose from its back. Two hidden pairs of wings appeared, making it live up to its name as a six-winged black dragon. The petrified scales on its body shattered like stone shells, revealing the new scales underneath. The six dragon wings were suddenly extended. They drew out a terrifying black flame. Black flame like blades slashed toward Medusa. Medusa was unwilling to be outdone as she waved her snake hair to meet the black-flamed blade aura. Numerous blade auras collided with the snake hair. Although the blade aura was shattered, many of the poisonous snakes were also severed. Instantly, the two mythical creatures were enraged as they began a battle between monsters. Zhou Wen firmly held onto the black six-winged dragon's back. No matter how intense the battle was, he wasn't thrown off its back. Zhou Wen's sky spider glove had very strong adhesive properties. Once he stuck on, there was no way of separating him unless he released or had his hand chopped off. It wasn't easy to survive in such a terrifying battle. Thankfully, Zhou Wen had the demon dragon true body. Otherwise, just the aftershocks of the battle or the black flames from the six-winged dragon's body would have been enough to kill him. Furthermore, there was an extremely important point to take note of. Medusa's eyes of petrification provided Zhou Wen with endless essence energy. If not, he wouldn't have been able to persist either. Without the demon dragon true body protecting him, he would be instantly killed in such a battle. Zhou Wen hugged the black six-winged dragon's neck tightly and slumped on its back. If Medusa wanted to kill him, she would definitely attack the black six-winged dragon. As for the black six-winged dragon, how could it allow her to bully it? The more they fought, the angrier they became. Instantly, the mountain wall above the island shattered and the ground cracked. The venom corroded the rocks, and the black flames turned the originally lush island to ruins. Only the spot where the golden apple tree was located remained unscathed, as if it was protected by a mysterious power. Zhou Wen wished he could immediately escape from the black six-winged dragon's back. Now that it was truly infuriated with Medusa because of the battle, he believed that the two monsters probably wouldn't stop the fight even without him. But now, Zhou Wen really couldn't escape. The force field produced from their battle had pressed him firmly onto the black six-winged dragon's back. If Zhou Wen were to forcefully rush out, he would probably be struck by a terrifying explosive force in midair and end up being embroiled in their battle. The pain in his organs was excruciating. It was likely that the wounds from before had been torn apart. Although he had the demon dragon true body protecting him, his body still suffered a significant blow. Blood constantly seeped out from his mouth and nose. "I'm going to die." Zhou Wen endured the pain as he hugged the black six-winged dragon's neck tightly. He tried his best to stick his body to its scales to reduce the damage. The black six-winged dragon was indeed worthy of being the guardian of the golden apple. It was actually able to fight evenly with a mythical demoness like Medusa. Although Medusa's eyes of petrification had some effect on it, it was difficult to completely petrify it. Only the scales on its surface were affected, but after shattering, they produced new scales. The battle between the two monsters allowed Zhou Wen to see the abilities they didn't use when he fought them. As Zhou Wen's strength wasn't at their level, there were many skills that they didn't need to use when they fought him. Now that they had encountered an opponent that was on par with them, they had used all sorts of skills, broadening his horizons. Zhou Wen was secretly rejoicing. The reason they were able to kill the six-winged dragon the last time was purely because they were lucky. If it wasn't for the six-winged dragon being infuriated by him and completely ignorant of everything else, the demonic neonate wouldn't have had a chance to stab the ancient sword through its heart. In a head-on clash, he and Sheng would probably only end up being thrashed, even if they joined forces. Of course, Zhang Yuzhai also played a crucial role. Otherwise, Zhou Wen would have died. Zhou Wen had the intention to summon the demonic neonate and get her to do it again. But in this situation, even if he could kill one of them, the other wasn't something Zhou Wen could handle. In the end, it would only mean death. Just as Zhou Wen was thinking about how he could survive, the black six-winged dragon had already pounced on Medusa and bit her head. The venomous snakes on Medusa's head swept over but were mostly bitten apart by the black six-winged dragon. Suddenly, blood tears rolled out of Medusa's eyes. A strange light shot out from her eyes. The eyes of petrification did not have any corporeal light. Medusa also had another ability that shot out light from her eyes. However, that was not the eyes of petrification. It only possessed potent destructive power without the ability to petrify. However, the light that shot out this time was different. When the beam from the blood-teary eyes shone on the black six-winged dragon's body, it began petrifying it. This time, the petrification was different from before. Not only were the scales on the surface petrified, but the six-winged black dragon's body was also petrified. The speed of petrification just wasn't very fast. Roar! Black flames rose from the black six-winged dragon's body as it erupted with a terrifying power. It wanted to resist the petrification of its body, but it was useless this time. Its body became more and more petrified. It started with its chest and face, then its forelimbs, and then finally its body and rear limbs. In just a short moment, the six-winged dragon was about to turn into a statue. What's going on? Is this the true power of Medusa's eyes of petrification? Was the one before just for fun? Zhou Wen was alarmed. Even worse was that the truth listener earring's power was gradually unable to withstand the petrifying light. Zhou Wen's skin began to show signs of petrification, despite his dragon form. I can't wait any longer. Zhou Wen knew that if he waited any longer, he might lose his life. He immediately summoned the demonic neonate and Banana Fairy. He held the fan formed by Banana Fairy and waved it at Medusa below. A strong wind blew away Medusa's snake hair. The demonic neonate did not hesitate. The ancient sword tore out of its sheath and transformed into a purple glow that directly pierced toward Medusa's head. The black six-winged dragon was not completely petrified. It continued to press against Medusa, preventing her from dodging. All she could do was turn her head in an attempt to avoid the ancient sword. However, The ancient sword was too close to her, and she was unable to completely dodge it. A purple light flashed, and the ancient sword actually pierced through her left eye. Immediately, blood flowed out from the socket as Medusa let out a sharp cry. Chapter 479. A hero almost akin to God. Medusa let out a painful cry. A huge force surged out from her body, forcing the half-petrified six-winged dragon to retreat more than 10 meters. She used her fingertips to grab the hilt of the ancient sword, and like pulling out a splinter, she pulled it out from her eye and threw it violently. Zhou Wen jumped off the black six-winged dragon's back and looked at Medusa's eyes. He saw that the eye that had been stabbed by the ancient sword was blood red, and blood kept gushing out. It looked like a serious injury. Upon discovering Zhou Wen, Medusa angrily rushed over, but the petrified black dragon's body emitted a cracking sound. Its petrified flesh and bones cracked open as it forcefully slammed Medusa. Medusa was hit head-on and immediately rolled over. However, a purple light flashed. The ancient sword that was thrown by Medusa had flown back. While she was embroiled with the six-winged black dragon, the sword stabbed into her other eye. The demonic neonate hid in the distance with a cold expression in her eyes. Medusa's eyes were completely blind. She immediately became a poisonous snake that had lost its poisonous fangs. Although her combat strength remained terrifying, she was not as strong as before. The black six-winged dragon dragged its half-petrified body and fought the blind Medusa. It was still an intense battle, but Zhou Wen was finally able to escape the crossfire. He fled the battlefield and watched them fight. The ground trembled as the two monsters engaged in close combat. The ground cracked and the mountains collapsed, as though the end of the world had arrived. Zhou Wen hid far away and saw Medusa and the black six-winged dragon slam into the sea together. The waves in the sea churned, stirring up huge waves. He couldn't help but secretly rejoice. If they really end up with an internecine outcome, I might really luck out this time. Perhaps I might be able to kill two mythical creatures at once. As he thought this, he saw the six-winged black dragon and Medusa sink into the sea. He could only see the surging waves on the surface of the sea, so he did not know what the situation below was. After a while, the sea calmed down, but a lot of red liquid spread out. Don't tell me both parties are dead. If they die without me killing them, will they leave behind crystals and companion eggs? Zhou Wen was considering whether he should go into the sea to search for the corpses, when he suddenly saw the seawater spew out like a volcanic eruption. Face covered in blood and body covered in wounds, a one-armed Medusa charged out of the sea. The ancient sword in her eye hadn't been pulled out, but she ignored it and charged at Zhou Wen. Although her eyes were blind, and she no longer had the ability to use the eyes of petrification, the snakes on her head could still allow her to see. Zhou Wen turned around and ran. Although Medusa looked miserable, she was still a mythical creature after all. To be able to kill a six-winged dragon in such a state was indeed extremely terrifying. Medusa chased after him with all her might as though she hated Zhou Wen to the core. However, Zhou Wen soon realized that she was much slower. Previously, Zhou Wen wasn't as fast as her when he used ghost steps. Now, he could open up a distance with it. Medusa's speed was indeed much slower, completely different from before. Zhou Wen felt a lot more at ease. He rushed into the waterfall pool and returned to the island in the real world. Medusa rushed out as well, but Zhou Wen knew that she was slowing down. Furthermore, her body was constantly bleeding. It looked like her aura was rapidly weakening. She's about to die. Zhou Wen was delighted. He watched as Medusa's aura weakened, and her body slowed down. More importantly, the demonic neonate's ancient sword had completely stabbed into her eye, having likely penetrated her brain. Although Medusa no longer posed a threat to him, Zhou Wen still tried his best to maintain a constant distance from her. He had no idea if she would suddenly unleash a crazy attack before dying, just like when the black six-winged dragon died previously. However, Zhou Wen soon realized that Medusa was really on the brink of death. As she chased after him, she left a pool of blood on the ground. The wounds on her body were bleeding profusely. With her physique, the wounds should have stopped bleeding. Clearly, the six-winged dragon's powers were strange, preventing her wounds from healing. Medusa had already begun to stumble as she walked. She was like a staggering old woman. She no longer had her previous might. When Zhou Wen retreated to the beach, Medusa seemed to know that she was at the end of her rope. She unleashed her final strength and pounced at Zhou Wen with a shrill cry. Her pounce seemed to be strong, but her strength was spent. She no longer had the terrifying energy fluctuations from before. Zhou Wen summoned Overlord's sword and slashed out a sword beam at Medusa, who was pouncing over. Lucas and Barbara had already arrived near the island on their boat. Lucas was looking around when he saw Zhou Wen standing on the beach. He was immediately overjoyed. Just as he was about to call out to him, he suddenly saw Medusa pounce at him. Barbara immediately let loose a cry of surprise upon seeing this. However, in the next second, Zhou Wen drew his sword and slashed at Medusa, who was pouncing over. The intense sword glow was like a sun halo as it slashed at Medusa's neck. After this, Medusa's body was sent flying under the impact of the sword beam. Under the continuous rotation of the razor-like sword flash, the flesh and bones on her neck were crushed and broken. Finally, her head was chopped off and it flew into the air. Barbara's scream came to a halt as her mouth gaped open in shock. Her eyes were widened at this incredulous scene. The demoness, Medusa, who had wreaked havoc in the entire city and left countless epic experts on the peninsula of gods helpless, had been beheaded. It was truly unbelievable. Lucas was also surprised. Then, he subconsciously took out his phone and, out of habit, took a photo. Ka-cha! The image on the screen was that of a man on the beach with his back facing the camera under the setting sun. He was holding a sword askew to the ground. Across the young man, Medusa's body was suspended in mid-air. Fresh blood spurted out and a head flew into the air. The entire scene looked extremely impactful and had an indescribable beauty of violence. The calmness of the sword-wielding man formed a strong contrast with the twisted snakes on Medusa's head and the blood that sprayed out. It made anyone who saw the picture feel their blood boil for some reason. Lucas looked at the picture and had a sudden impulse. After adding a caption, he attempted to post it on his online account. Medusa's doomsday, the descent of a hero almost akin to God. The moment this photo appeared, it immediately caused the internet to explode in excitement. Countless people on the Peninsula of Gods saw this photo and left a message. Chapter 480, A Personal Hero. Although the people who followed Lucas were basically young people from the Peninsula of Gods, it was precisely because of this that they knew how terrifying Medusa was. Many people had witnessed Medusa wreaking havoc in the city with their own eyes. Countless innocent citizens had been harmed, and so many epic experts were mercilessly killed by Medusa. Even though no one had fought Medusa before, they knew that this legendary demoness was definitely at the mythical stage. Now that Medusa had actually been killed, they were both surprised and happy. Many people left comments to ask Lucas if Medusa had really been killed. Many people also asked who the man that killed Medusa was and who the sword-wielding man was. Then, this photo and Lucas's caption spread across the internet at the speed of light, triggering a tsunami-like discussion. There were two main points to the discussion. One was the authenticity of the picture, while the other was the identity of the sword-wielding man. Lucas's personal page was about to crash from the traffic. Everyone was waiting for Lucas's reply. However, Lucas didn't read the messages. After posting the photo, he and Barbara landed on the island together. "Haha, I knew you could do it. You are a great hero like me, Lucas. You saved our city." Lucas went forward and gave Zhou Wen a firm hug. "I'm not as great as you." Zhou Wen wasn't mocking him, but speaking from the heart. Lucas knew that it was impossible, but he did what he could do. Although there was a slight accident, it hadn't been his intention. One day, you will surpass me. Lucas looked confident as he patted Zhou Wen's shoulder and said, "Quick, go and take a look at your spoils of war. That's the reward you deserve, and also the medal of a hero." Zhou Wen rolled his eyes inwardly. He was clearly just digging through a corpse for treasures. Why did it sound so righteous when Lucas put it that way? Zhou Wen didn't stand on ceremony. This was a mythical creature he had risked his life to kill. He naturally wouldn't let it go. Soon, Zhou Wen found a dimensional crystal in Medusa's corpse. There was Medusa's shadow in the dimensional crystal. Clearly, it was a Essence Energy Skill crystal. Old friend, you're really lucky to have obtained Medusa's Essence Energy Skill crystal. Come, let me take a picture of you and upload it online with the photo from just now. Let them witness the moment of heroism. As Lucas spoke, he was about to use his phone to take a picture. What did you say? Zhou Wen hurriedly stopped Lucas and glared at him. I said take a picture and upload it online. This is your heroic history, said Lucas. No, what do you mean by the photo from just now? Zhou Wen asked again. It's this. I just took a picture of you and uploaded it online. The response is pretty good. You will soon become a famous hero. Lucas opened his personal page and showed the picture to Zhou Wen as though he was showing off. Zhou Wen looked at the number of replies. It was already more than 60,000, and it was still increasing. His face immediately turned livid. Quickly delete the photo. Zhou Wen was truly anxious. The Special Inspector Bureau and 6 families didn't know that he had advanced to the epic stage. If they were to find out that he had advanced to the epic stage and had even killed a dimensional creature like Medusa, they would only be more careful when sending people to make trouble with him in the future. The people they sent would also be more powerful. Wouldn't that be giving him trouble? Why should I delete it? Isn't this good? Lucas asked in puzzlement. I don't want to be a hero, much less become famous. Lucas, you mustn't tell anyone about what happened today. Don't let others know that I killed Medusa, all right. Zhou Wen also knew that deleting it was useless. This picture had probably been reposted countless times. He took a closer look at the photo and realized that it was only a back view of him. Furthermore, because the Overlord's sword reflected the sunlight, it was almost impossible to see the blade clearly. Even his back was affected by the light, so it wasn't easy to recognize him. Although I don't know why you have such a strange request, as your friend, I respect your decision. Do you still want me to delete this picture? Said Lucas. Forget it. Zhou Wen shook his head. If he were to delete it now, it would only result in the Streisand effect. Zhou Wen looked at Barbara and asked, Missy, can you help me keep this secret? No, Barbara shook her head. Barbara, he's my friend, Lucas said anxiously. Barbara took out a notebook and pen from her chest and handed it to Zhou Wen. Blinking her eyes, she said, It's fine if you want me to keep it a secret for you, but you have to sign an autograph for me. Why do you want my autograph? Zhou Wen frowned slightly. He still remembered Jock's matter and wouldn't easily sign things. Silly, because you are her hero, Lucas said with a laugh as he patted Zhou Wen's back. Zhou Wen only realized that he was overthinking when he saw Barbara's flushed face. I can give you an autograph, but don't tell anyone about this, okay? Zhou Wen took the notebook and pen and signed his name on it. Sure. Barbara received the notebook and carefully looked at Zhou Wen's signature. Then, she carefully closed it and hugged it in her arms. She thought in joy, of course I'll keep it a secret for you. Only I know that you're the hero who killed Medusa. Only I have your autograph. This is a secret between my personal hero and me. Are you going back with us? Lucas asked Zhou Wen. It will be inevitable for people to suspect me if I go back with you. Zhou Wen didn't choose to go back with them, not only because of the reason he gave. He still wanted to enter the island to see if the 6-winged dragon was dead. If it was dead, there might be something like a crystal left behind. It would be best if he could obtain a companion egg. Even if nothing was left, it was not bad to pick another golden apple. However, Zhou Wen remembered that the golden apple had just born previously, so it likely wasn't ripe yet. After Lucas and Barbara left, Zhou Wen entered the dimensional zone through the pool and went to the apple tree to take a look. The golden apple had only just grown and was still far from being ripe. It was probably useless if he plucked it now. Without finding the ruins of the six-winged dragon on the island, Zhou Wen arrived near the sea where it fought Medusa. He summoned the silver water snake and made it search for it to see if he could find anything. Chapter 481. True Mythical Companion Bees. As soon as the silver water snake entered the ocean, it merged with the seawater, as if it had disappeared. Zhou Wen made it search the bottom of the sea. After a while, he saw the silver water snake crawl out of the sea with something in its mouth. Zhou Wen saw that it looked like a black pineapple without leaves. On careful look, he realized that it was an egg covered in scales. The black six-winged dragon's egg. Zhou Wen was overjoyed. The silver water snake handed the egg to Zhou Wen. Zhou Wen looked at it, using the mysterious phone. It was indeed a mythical companion egg. Six-winged guardian dragon, mythical. Life providence, guardian dragon. Life soul, wings of black flame. Wheel of destiny, the last guardian. Strength, 69. Speed, 68. Constitution, 68. Essence energy, 65. Talent skill, poison breath, dragon's rage, hell demonic flame, six-wing slash. Companion form, demonic flaming dragon wings. A true mythical companion beast. Zhou Wen was surprised and delighted. This was the first time he had seen a true mythical companion egg. The companion beasts he had now only had the potential of being mythical, but none had truly advanced to the mythical stage. The one closest to the true mythical stage was demonic neonate, but her stats were too low. She needed to grow again. Otherwise, she could only release her flying sword from afar and not participate in any head-on combat. The six-winged guardian dragon was a true mythical creature. If it could hatch, it would undoubtedly raise Zhou Wen's strength greatly. With it, the chances of Zhou Wen defeating the mythical creature in the temple were much higher. The essence energy requirement must be very high, but my slaughterer has the ability to have unlimited essence energy. I should be able to hatch it, right? Zhou Wen thought as he used the mysterious phone to snap the six-winged guardian dragon egg into his phone, before letting the blood-colored avatar attempt to hatch it. The incubation went surprisingly smoothly. After activating Slaughterer, the blood-colored avatar easily hatched the six-winged guardian dragon. Its tattoo appeared on his back. Zhou Wen excitedly summoned the six-winged guardian dragon. The feeling of seeing a black dragon appear in front of him was indescribable. However, the six-winged guardian dragon that appeared in front of Zhou Wen only had 2 dragon wings. It wasn't in its six-winged form. After Zhou Wen made it use its life soul, the six-winged guardian dragon took on the six-winged form, and its strength increased greatly. After getting the six-winged guardian dragon to use all its skills, Zhou Wen realized that the fellow's skills weren't complete. It had fewer skills than the real six-winged guardian dragon, but these 4 skills were enough. What Zhou Wen was more concerned about was its Wheel of Destiny. The demonic neonate also had the Wheel of Destiny, but it was written 1 spin without any annotations. However, the six-winged guardian dragon was different. Behind the Wheel of Destiny was the Last Guardian, and there was also an annotation. The Last Guardian, Miracle of Life Ward. Although it had an annotation, Zhou Wen still didn't understand what it meant. He got the six-winged guardian dragon to demonstrate it, but it couldn't. Regardless, having his first true mythical companion beast made Zhou Wen very excited. Riding on the six-winged guardian dragon, Zhou Wen circled the sky and realized that it wasn't as comfortable as he had imagined. This fellow's flying state was too violent and wasn't stable at all. Riding it was like riding a wild, unbridled horse. The feeling wasn't good. From the looks of it, it's not that great an experience when the legendary dragon knights in the West District ride dragons. Zhou Wen unsummoned the dragon and glanced at the golden apple that hadn't ripened. In the end, he gave up the thought of plucking it and left the mysterious dimensional zone. After returning to the Peninsula of Gods, he quickly contacted Sheng. "You were the one who killed Medusa, right?" And Sheng had clearly seen the photo online and asked directly. Zhou Wen recounted the situation. And Sheng wasn't as excited as Lucas and company. He said to Zhou Wen solemnly, "Young Master Wen, you only have one life. Furthermore, it doesn't only belong to you. I hope you won't use your life to do such dangerous things again. I originally only wanted to lure Medusa away. I never expected that I couldn't lose her, no matter how hard I tried. In the end, I was forced by the circumstances," Zhou Wen explained. "This absolutely mustn't happen a second time. Forget it, I'll quickly take you back. I can't let you stay outside any longer. It's only been a few days, but you nearly died twice. I'll let you return to school where you attend classes and game," and Sheng said. "Has the ban on the Peninsula of Gods been lifted?" Zhou Wen asked. After Medusa escaped, the Peninsula of Gods was already in chaos. "What's the use of the ban? That thief has probably left the Peninsula of Gods long ago, so there's naturally no need for them to continue the ban." And Sheng paused before saying, "Quickly come back. I'll go book the flight tickets now." When Zhou Wen returned to the hotel, and Sheng didn't say anything else. However, he booked the earliest ticket to leave the Peninsula of Gods. They could leave tomorrow morning. When Zhou Wen was resting, he unlocked his phone to look at Lucas's personal page. The comments below the picture had exceeded 200,000. The latest messages were asking who the hero was. This was because Lucas had confirmed Medusa's death after his return. Now, they only wanted to know who killed Medusa. Thankfully, there was only his back view in the photo, and because of the light, it wasn't very clear. Even Sheng had relied on guessing. It was impossible for him to recognize Zhou Wen with this photo. No matter how many times the Special Inspector Bureau guessed, it was probably impossible to think of him. After all, in the Bureau's eyes, he was still a student who hadn't advanced to the epic stage. This photo was not only popular on the Peninsula of Gods, but even the Federation's brass had noticed it. After all, Medusa had really appeared. Such a creature was undoubtedly at the mythical stage. They paid close attention to people who could kill mythical creatures. It wasn't impossible for someone in the Federation to kill mythical creatures. At least, there were such people in the 6 families. However, that was only because they relied on mythical pets. Furthermore, there weren't many of them. Each family only had a few capable of such feats. Now that a person who could kill mythical creatures had suddenly appeared, it naturally attracted the attention of many factions. It wasn't just the 6 families. The powerful big shots in many places were guessing who this person was, and whether he was from the 6 families. However, few people knew the answer. The next morning, Sheng took Zhou Wen to the airport. Zhou Wen sat in the departure hall while Sheng went to the bathroom. As he was texting Lucas to bid him farewell, someone walked to the chair behind Zhou Wen and sat down. Zhou Wen didn't notice the person, but after he sat down, he leaned against the back of the chair behind Zhou Wen. The back of his head bumped into Zhou Wen's hair. Zhou Wen frowned slightly. Just as he was about to lean his head forward and not get too close to him, he heard a voice behind him. "It looks like you've been doing pretty well recently." Chapter 482. Turning around is easy, meeting is difficult. Zhou Wen's body trembled when he heard the voice. He was alarmed and delighted. Just as he wanted to stand up and turn his head to look at the person, he heard him say, "Sit still just like that and don't move. Xianxia, where have you been recently? Why are you here?" Zhou Wen asked in a lowered voice. He could tell that the voice belonged to Xianxia. He knew that Xianxia's situation might be worse than his. At the very least, the Bureau didn't dare openly arrest him and Hui Heifeng, but they weren't as polite to Xianxia and Jiangyan. I've been traveling around, leading the bunch of dogs at the Special Inspector Bureau in circles. Xianxia leaned against Zhou Wen and said in a relaxed tone, As for you, your rate of growth is really surprising. You were the one to kill Medusa, right? That was an accident. Zhou Wen paused and said, I got what you left behind. It's with me now. I'll hand it to you. There's no need. That was originally a souvenir for you, Xianxia said lazily. Is that the method teacher used? After a moment of silence, Zhou Wen asked again. Who knows? Xianxia pursed his lips and said, Even if you were to know what method was used, is there any meaning to it? Zhou Wen thought about it and was momentarily at a loss for words. Did Medusa drop a companion egg? Xianxia asked. No, it's just a essence energy skill crystal, Zhou Wen answered truthfully. Although the two of them hadn't really spent much time together, Zhou Wen felt that Xianxia was different from others. Perhaps it was because they were both Wang Minjuan students and were in the same situation, or perhaps for some other reason. If it wasn't necessary, he wasn't willing to patronize Xianxia. Lend me the Medusa crystal and pass it to me from the left. The surveillance camera can't see it from that corner, Xianxia said. What do you want it for? Zhou Wen said as he took out Medusa's crystal and handed it to Xianxia. He had seen the requirements of the Medusa crystal. He couldn't meet the requirements of 41 constitution and 21 cursed attributes. In addition, there were life providence and life soul requirements. Zhou Wen didn't know if his few life providences and life souls would be of any use. He was still unsure. However, just the stat requirement was enough to ensure that Zhou Wen wouldn't be able to use the Medusa crystal anytime soon. Furthermore, if he needed it, he could head to the Cursed Demon Palace to try his luck with Medusa. I need it to do something. Don't ask me what it is. I don't want to say. Xianxia took the dimensional crystal. After a while, he touched Zhou Wen's hand and said, This is for you. Take it as interest. Zhou Wen took it and looked at it. It was a box. Just as he was about to open it, he heard Xianxia say, Don't look at it now. Do it when there's no one around. Zhou Wen was about to say something when Xianxia stood up. I hope that I'll still be me when we meet again. With that said, Xianxia walked out of the waiting area while Zhou Wen sat there, motionless. Turning around wasn't difficult, but meeting was difficult. When Sheng returned, Xianxia had already disappeared into the crowd. If it wasn't for the box in his hand, Zhou Wen would have wondered if any of that had happened. The scene of Wang Minjuan cooking for the four of them, and him playing cards with them seemed to have happened yesterday. But today, they could not even look into each other's eyes. This darn world, Zhou Wen cursed softly as though he was venting his emotions. Lucas had offered to wave them off, but Zhou Wen told him that it wasn't necessary. The reason why Sheng didn't get Zhou Wen to inform him in advance was because he didn't want him there in case someone connected the person in Lucas's photo to Zhou Wen. Sheng sent Zhou Wen back to school. His stance made it obvious that he definitely wouldn't allow any accidents to happen to him. In fact, Zhou Wen didn't have the energy to stir up trouble. His injuries had been worsened from the battle, so he didn't even want to move. After returning to the dormitory, he threw himself into bed and soon fell asleep. When he woke up, it was already noon. Since he still couldn't feel hunger, Zhou Wen didn't eat anything. Thinking of the box Xianxia had given him previously, he took it out of the chaos bead and opened it to take a look. There's nothing. Zhou Wen couldn't help but be taken aback. The box was empty. That's not right. Zhou Wen quickly realized that the box wasn't empty because it was made of paper and was very light. However, he could sense that the box was rather heavy, as though there was a piece of iron inside. Could it be? Zhou Wen thought of something as he reached his hand into the box. Inside the empty box, something seemed to be in the way, preventing him from reaching in. Zhou Wen's fingers felt as though they were touching something ice-cold. Furthermore, wherever his fingertips touched, space warped visibly, as though a transparent plastic sheet had been crumpled. No way! Zhou Wen's expression turned odd. He took out the mysterious phone and aimed it at the box. Immediately, he saw a row of information appear on the phone. Invisibility cloak, mythical. After reading the top line, many thoughts flashed through Zhou Wen's mind as he came to a realization. The person who stole the invisibility cloak companion egg is Xianxia. Zhou Wen carefully recalled, and suddenly understood why he found the picture of the thief familiar. Now that he thought about it, the thief's looks and figure were different from Xianxia's. However, his eyes had a unique aura like Xianxia's. Xianxia didn't end up trapped in the cursed demon palace because he stole the invisibility cloak, but he stole it to deal with Medusa's eyes of petrification. Zhou Wen gradually considered the cause and effect of the matter. It was obvious that Xianxia could not incubate the invisibility cloak, so he could not kill Medusa. However, he ended up using some unknown method to get Medusa out of Cursed Demon Palace. With Zhou Wen's understanding of his character, Xianxia definitely wanted to use the experts on the Peninsula of Gods to kill Medusa. As for how many people would die as a result, Xianxia probably didn't take it to heart. Zhou Wen ended up killing Medusa, so he had come to see him. Otherwise, Zhou Wen wouldn't have known that he was the one who had stolen the invisibility cloak. Zhou Wen probably wouldn't have even known that he had been here before. Xianxia, what are you doing? Zhou Wen was somewhat worried. Xianxia's character was too extreme. Furthermore, he was extremely talented. If he really did something evil, he might become a devil like Jing Daoxian. Looking at the invisibility cloak companion egg in his hand, Zhou Wen's expression turned extremely complicated. He had originally gone to the Peninsula of Gods for the invisibility cloak, but he never expected the invisibility cloak to reach his hand in such a manner. Chapter 483, Strange Invisibility Cloak. Zhou Wen carefully read the information on the invisibility cloak, but he felt that something was amiss. Invisibility cloak, mythical. Life providence, seamless. Life soul, combat cloak. Wheel of destiny, deity possession. Strength, 54. Speed, 71. Constitution, 67. Essence energy, 72. Talent skill, invisibility. Companion form, invisibility cloak. There was no problem with the attributes. The Wheel of Destiny was a little strange. The annotation was that it was a miracle of a deity's descent. None of these were problematic, but the invisibility cloak was a companion egg. However, it didn't indicate that it was a companion egg in its information. It was as though the companion beast had already been hatched. Zhou Wen took out the transparent companion egg from the box. He could feel that it was the shape of an egg, about the size of a rugby ball. He attempted to inject his essence energy into it, but the invisibility cloak companion egg didn't react at all. It didn't accept his essence energy, much less absorb it. I wonder what method the Zhang family used to reduce the invisibility cloak back to its companion egg state. Now, although the invisibility cloak doesn't have an owner and looks the same as an ordinary companion egg in essence, it's already hatched. It's no wonder no one can't hatch it after so many years. Zhou Wen was already mentally prepared. It wasn't strange that he couldn't hatch it. With the companion egg in hand, Zhou Wen switched his essence energy art to the first order of chaos, before attempting to inject his essence energy into the companion egg. Legend had it that the invisibility cloak came from the temple of the dualism god, Phanes. As for the relationship between Phanes and chaos, it was very subtle. Furthermore, they were from the same pantheon. Zhou Wen felt that the first order of chaos might be useful. However, the outcome didn't disappoint Zhou Wen. After converting his essence energy art to the first order of chaos, the invisibility cloak accepted his essence energy. The entire companion egg trembled slightly. Zhou Wen was delighted as he increased his essence energy input, but the companion egg continued trembling gently. When Zhou Wen expended all his essence energy, the invisibility cloak remained still. What's the situation now? Does it work or not? Zhou Wen tried a few more times. When he injected essence energy, the invisibility cloak companion egg had a reaction. The moment he stopped, the invisibility cloak's reaction disappeared, but it showed no signs of hatching. After some thought, Zhou Wen felt that this might have something to do with his first order of chaos's low level. He had only achieved basic mastery of the first order of chaos, and he hadn't even condensed a life providence. If he could cultivate it to a higher level, he might be able to hatch the invisibility cloak. Zhou Wen had no choice but to put away the invisibility cloak. Even if he were to train his first order of chaos now, it wasn't something that could be improved in a short period of time. Although I can't use the invisibility cloak for the time being, I have obtained the six-winged guardian dragon companion beast. I can try and see if I can fight that snake in the temple. Zhou Wen took out his phone and activated the Zhualu instance dungeon. Once again, he came to the temple protected by the snake. Zhou Wen summoned the six-winged guardian dragon and let it enter to fight the snake. The six-winged guardian dragon was slightly faster than the snake, but its strength was clearly not as strong as that of the snake. A terrifying clash erupted within the palace. Dragon breath, demonic flame, poison smoke, and all sorts of powers erupted. The blood-colored avatar was nearly killed just from the remnant blasts. Thankfully, Zhou Wen had activated his demon dragon true body in time, preventing him from dying. Although the six-winged guardian dragon was at a disadvantage, the snake could not kill it in a short period of time. He could not help but be overjoyed. With the six-winged guardian dragon as the main force, he might have a chance of killing the snake. There was no need for him to get the invisibility cloak anymore. Zhou Wen summoned demonic neonate and banana fairy. Just as he was about to rush in to help, he saw the snake's eyes turn into mirrors. Then, it glanced at the six-winged guardian dragon, immediately making it disappear. It was as though it had been projected inside the snake's eyes. The next second, Zhou Wen saw the notification that the six-winged guardian dragon had died. He hurriedly turned around and ran. However, he ran a little too late. After being glanced at by the snake, the phone screen darkened. What kind of essence energy skill is that? Do you have to be so shameless? Even a mythical six-winged guardian dragon dies from a glance. Are you not giving me a way out? Zhou Wen was depressed. After re-entering the game, Zhou Wen tried a few more times. If the snake didn't have that essence energy skill, he might be able to defeat it by working together with the six-winged guardian dragon. However, every time the snake used that skill, he and the six-winged guardian dragon would be instantly killed without any chance to retaliate. Zhou Wen could only take the six-winged guardian dragon to the other temple, but the outcome was even worse. The dimensional creature that looked like a wolf and tiger, but wasn't any of them, killed the six-winged guardian dragon with its speed. The dimensional creature's speed far exceeded that of the six-winged guardian dragon. Furthermore, its claws were nearly indestructible. The six-winged guardian dragon was ripped apart in a few blows. Although they were both mythical creatures, the six-winged guardian dragon was clearly much weaker than the two. This also had something to do with the companion beast's incomplete skills. If it was the six-winged guardian dragon with its entire lineup of skills, it should be able to last a little longer. Even if I can't kill these two, can't I kill the weaker ones? Zhou Wen took the six-winged guardian dragon to the underground sea, thinking of using it to crush the 9 black dragons that were pulling the wagon. They were all at the mythical stage. With the black dragon being chained up, their strength was greatly reduced. They were definitely not as strong as the six-winged guardian dragon. Zhou Wen confidently rode the six-winged guardian dragon towards the sea and prepared to start a massacre. However, the moment they entered the sea and saw the 9 black dragons, the black dragons seemed to become enraged. The chains on their bodies began to break apart. Then, a tragic scene occurred. The six-winged guardian dragon was like a little lamb that had entered a pack of wolves, and it was torn apart by the 9 ferocious black dragons. What's going on? They can escape their chains even without opening the door to the war wagon. Zhou Wen looked at the black screen and felt extremely depressed. Zhou Wen tried going to the underground sea again. This time, he didn't summon the six-winged guardian dragon. The 9 black dragons did not escape their chains. However, when Zhou Wen summoned the six-winged guardian dragon, the 9 black dragons acted like they were on steroids. They broke free from the chains and devoured the six-winged guardian dragon and the blood-colored avatar once again. As a person, it's best to be more pragmatic. Zhou Wen still hadn't recovered from his injuries, and he had lost a lot of blood previously, so he really didn't wish to waste any more blood. He didn't dare take the six-winged guardian dragon to fight mythical creatures again. Instead, he won a tiger cage pass. Chapter 484, Killing the Masked Man. The only dimensional creature that Zhou Wen had never killed in Tiger Cage Pass was the Masked Man. The Masked Man's various essence energy skills were endless and extremely bizarre. Although Zhou Wen wasn't afraid of him, he couldn't kill him. Now that he had the help of the six-winged guardian dragon, Zhou Wen felt that it was time to give it a try. Apart from Truth Listener, Zhou Wen summoned all of them: six-winged guardian dragon, fire furnace queen, demonic neonate, banana fairy, and a few other commonly used companion beasts. The tiger cage demonized general was nothing. The six-winged guardian dragon's poisonous breath killed him instantly. After entering the city, the fire furnace queen released fire furnace, turning the surroundings into a sea of fire. Any demonized soldiers or demonized generals that came died. The masked man used cast beans for soldiers and cut paper as generals. It was of little use and could not block the fire furnace queen that was setting fire everywhere. Everything produced was burnt to death. The fire furnace queen's combat strength could only be considered average. However, when it came to farming low-level monsters, she was truly great. She was invincible, and even the few mythical pets were not as useful as her. Thinking back to how pathetic he had been when he first entered the city, and now looking at how he was trampling over the ancient city, Zhou Wen felt that he was indeed improving. With Zhou Wen's command, the six-winged guardian dragon immediately charged at the masked man. It spewed out poisonous smoke as the demonic flames on its body burned it to ashes. Unfortunately, it was only a piece of yellow paper. The masked man appeared elsewhere. The six-winged guardian dragon roared and charged over again, killing the masked man again, but it was still a piece of yellow paper. Although the masked man's level and strength were far inferior to the six-winged guardian dragon, his technique was just too bizarre. Despite the six-winged guardian dragon making several attacks, it was still unable to kill him. This fellow's skill is amazing. If he can drop the skill, it will be awesome for me. Are its immortal chains or yellow paper avatar more powerful? Although the cast beans for soldiers and cut paper as generals are also impressive, they don't seem to be of much use. It's fine dealing with low-level monsters, but it's basically useless against high-level monsters, Zhou Wen thought to himself. The six-winged guardian dragon chased the masked man in a frenzy. When the six-winged guardian dragon spewed out its dragon breath again, the strange man threw a rope into the air, and a dark cloud appeared in the sky. Then, he took a few steps and pulled the rope before rising into the clouds. The six-winged guardian dragon spat out a mouthful of demonic flames that scattered the dark clouds, but the masked man was nowhere to be seen. The pair of dragon eyes scanned the city, but it did not see the masked man. The six-winged guardian dragon was enraged. Demonic flames erupted from its body, burning all the demonized soldiers around it to death. However, a demonized soldier leaped up from the demonic flames and somersaulted onto the city wall. Its body changed from the demonized soldier to the masked man. He held beans and pieces of paper in each hand before scattering them into the air. Immediately, it transformed into demonized soldiers and demonized generals. The six-winged guardian dragon rushed over and shredded the masked man into pieces, but it was reduced to yellow paper shreds. This skill is too sick. Even a mythical creature can't do a thing to him. Who is this fellow? Zhou Wen was dumbfounded. Zhou Wen had already seen quite a number of dimensional creatures. Typically, high-level creatures could crush low-level creatures. This was the first time Zhou Wen had seen an epic creature tease a mythical creature. How can I kill him? Just as Zhou Wen was pondering, he saw the six-winged guardian dragon's 6 wings flap crazily. It shot out beams of demonic flames that resembled saber beams, sweeping away all the demonized soldiers and demonized generals in the city. The masked man had nowhere to hide and was forced out. He pulled the rope and attempted to escape into the dark clouds. Before he could enter the dark clouds, a purple beam of light suddenly flew past and severed the masked man's head along with the rope. Thud! The masked man's headless corpse and the rope fell to the ground. The purple light transformed into a flying sword and returned to the scabbard in the demonic neonate's arms. However, Zhou Wen soon discovered that the corpse that had fallen to the ground had turned into a puppet. And at the spot between the puppet's brows was a speck of red, like a drop of blood. Killed epic creature, elegant emperor's avatar puppet. Discovered dimensional crystal. Zhou Wen originally imagined that it was all for naught. He never expected to see the notification on his phone. A dimensional crystal dropped at the same time. Zhou Wen saw that the dimensional crystal didn't have the shadow of the masked man, but there was a spirit talisman. Although he found it odd, he was still overjoyed. Although it wasn't a companion egg, he was already very satisfied to have an essence energy skill crystal drop. I wonder which skill it is. Zhou Wen picked up the essence energy skill crystal and wanted to absorb it. Life providence incompatible. Unable to absorb. A notification popped up on the phone, startling Zhou Wen. He knew that a mythical skill required specific types of life providence and life soul, but for an epic essence energy skill to have a life providence requirement was rather rare. Zhou Wen switched his life providences and attempted. The ancient sovereign life providence, 8 perfections wisdom and God-fiend were useless. When Zhou Wen switched to Tao body, he finally absorbed the essence energy skill crystal. A strange energy surged out of the crystal and entered the blood-colored avatar's body. It opened up a new essence energy circulation pathway in the blood-colored avatar's body. An indescribable coolness spread throughout Zhou Wen's body as strange information flowed into his brain. Absorbed elegant emperor avatar's puppet crystal. Attained epic essence energy skill, substitute talisman. Zhou Wen was delighted. Is this the substitution technique of the elegant emperor? It's probably the skill which uses the paper figurines to substitute death, right? Surely with that skill, I no longer have to be afraid of death. It's equivalent to having countless lives. After Zhou Wen carefully studied the substitute talisman's information, his expression turned odd. It wasn't like there was any other way. The substitute talisman was the skill of letting the paper figurine be a substitute in death. However, this skill wasn't as simple as he thought it to be. It wasn't something that could be used immediately if he wanted to. He had to prepare the substitute talisman beforehand so that he could use it during battle. This essence energy skill wasn't something that could be used at the last minute. It required a long period of advanced preparations, and the process was rather complicated. The only thing that comforted Zhou Wen was that creating a substitute talisman required a large amount of essence energy to support him. Thankfully, he had the slaughterer life soul giving him virtually unlimited essence energy. so there was no need to worry about lacking it. Zhou Wen got some tools and planned on creating a substitute talisman. Creating a substitute talisman did not necessarily require yellow paper, wood, stone, or metal. Even a piece of tile could be used as the basic material for substitute talisman. However, generally speaking, the success rate of jade and plant materials was the highest when creating them. Zhou Wen took out an ordinary piece of paper. It was probably made of plant material, so the success rate wasn't too low. After calming his mind, Zhou Wen used the substitute talisman skill. He extended his finger and condensed his essence energy on his fingertip. He pressed it on the white paper and drew a strange rune. Chapter 485, Going to Mount Leijun Again. However, before he could finish drawing the runes, the paper tore apart. It could not withstand the corrosion from the essence energy. After drawing this talisman, Zhou Wen's essence energy was nearly depleted. The substitute talisman consumed too much essence energy. However, the Tao body gave him extremely fast essence energy recovery speed. Zhou Wen didn't have to worry about having insufficient essence energy. However, it would be a waste if he didn't complete the substitute talisman. Ordinary paper didn't seem to work. Zhou Wen found a wooden plank. It had been peeled off a box and was rather common pine wood. However, the wooden plank couldn't withstand the essence energy either, and before Zhou Wen could finish drawing the substitute talisman, it shattered. Zhou Wen thought hard and found a steel plate. He used his essence energy to draw talismans on it. This time, the steel plate didn't crack, but the essence energy talisman he drew dissipated immediately. It was as though he had used gasoline to write on it, and it had quickly evaporated. From the looks of it, it's not a problem with the material. The success of the substitute talisman likely has a probability. It's not something that can be used just by drawing it out. Zhou Wen roughly understood the reason. Therefore, he continued to use paper in his attempt to draw the substitute talisman. After drawing dozens of talismans in a row, none of them succeeded. The paper was completely shredded. Isn't the success rate a little too low? If it were someone else, their essence energy recovery wouldn't be able to keep up. They might not even be able to produce any substitute talisman in a day. This chance is almost as low as winning the lottery. Zhou Wen felt somewhat indignant as he continued drawing. However, he failed to succeed even after finishing all the paper. Zhou Wen was a little stubborn. If he didn't successfully complete one, he would feel uncomfortable. However, he couldn't find any more paper at home. He left his dorm and planned on buying a few diaries from the supermarket. He refused to believe that he couldn't draw a substitute talisman. Just as he walked out of Four Seasons Garden, he saw Wang Lu return from outside. After seeing Zhou Wen, Wang Lu blinked and said, "When did you come back? Why didn't you tell me? You even got me to help you rear the antelope and chick. They are gluttons, don't you know that? Isn't that too much? I just came back and haven't had the time to go to your place," Zhou Wen said with a cough. He had really forgotten the two fellows. "You came back just in time. This is the food I bought for them. Take it back for them." Wang Lu handed the two bags in her hands to Zhou Wen. Zhou Wen took a look. There were all kinds of snacks in the bag, and they were all branded goods that weren't cheap. "Wang Lu, you don't have to feed them with these things. Just give them something simple to eat." Zhou Wen was somewhat speechless as he thought to himself, "Do you have a mine at home? You need to be so extravagant when feeding them. It's not good to torture animals, right?" Wang Lu said with a smile. After a while, Wang Lu said, "By the way, you came back just in time. There will be a Xianxia Club event tomorrow. You can come too." "What's the event?" Zhou Wen asked. Lai Qiuan said he wants to visit Mount Leijun to see the wordless monument, said Wang Lu. He's visiting Mount Leijun to see the wordless monument. Zhou Wen was somewhat surprised. They had previously gone to Mount Leijun. After returning, Lai Xuan swore that he would never go to that god-forsaken place again. Now, he was the one suggesting to visit Mount Leijun to see the wordless monument. From the looks of it, Lai Mobai's matter really dealt him a huge blow, Zhou Wen thought. "Are you going?" Wang Lu asked. "Yes," Zhou Wen thought for a moment. Since Lai Xuan was determined to cultivate hard, he naturally had to support him. "By the way, take the antelope with you when you go." Zhou Wen felt that this might be an opportunity to see if the antelope would return to Mount Leijun's golden peak. When they arrived at Wang Lu's dormitory, he saw that the antelope was still lazily sleeping on the sofa. As for the chick, it was standing on the table, watching an entertainment program that was playing on television. There were 2 dishes on the table. One was filled with melon seeds, and the other was filled with melon seed shells. It ate a melon seed very skillfully and spat the melon seed shell onto the other plate. It was done in a fluid fashion like water. A cloud hung over Zhou Wen's head as he thought to himself, "Indeed, I can't leave a pet to a woman. It's only been a few days, and it has already become like this. From the looks of it, I'll have to leave it with Lai Xuan if I go out again." Furthermore, Zhou Wen realized that the 2 of them had gained weight. It wasn't because they had grown, but because they had become fat. In the past, the chick resembled a small falcon. Its body was streamlined, but now it was as fat as a duck as it waddled about. Zhou Wen was really worried about its flight abilities. "No, I have to educate it well. I have to make it an outstanding phoenix. Who the hell has seen a phoenix that looks like a fat duck?" Zhou Wen made up his mind to train it in the future. From the looks of it, I should indeed find a dimensional zone to hone it. Zhou Wen stared at the chick as he considered which dimensional zone to take it to. The chick shivered for some reason as it looked away from the screen. When it saw Zhou Wen, it immediately flapped its wings excitedly and flew over. Zhou Wen opened his arms and wanted to hug it, but to his surprise, the fellow plummeted mid-flight because it was too fat. It flapped its wings a few times before stabilizing its body. It didn't fall to the ground. However, a dark cloud hung over Zhou Wen's head. "This fellow really can't fly anymore. I need to train him. He needs to undergo hell training." Zhou Wen steeled his mind. As for the antelope, Zhou Wen didn't dare touch it and pretended not to see it. He took the antelope and chick back to his dorm. The next morning, Zhou Wen went to buy breakfast for Wang Lu. After she woke up and finished eating, the 2 of them went to the Xianxia Club. The members of the Xianxia Club were nearly all present. Even busy people like Gu Dian and Huang Jai had actually come. Feng Qiuyan had also brought Ming Ziyu and Tian Zhenjin. Together with Feng Ruoxi, Tian Xiandong, and the other old members, the group took the school's bus for Mount Leijun. This was an event that the Xianxia Club had applied for with the school. The driver and the tutor who took them there were from the school, so there was no need to worry too much about safety. Zhou Wen wasn't worried about his safety. With the 6-winged guardian dragon, there were only a handful of people in the Federation who could kill him. Even if he couldn't beat them, Zhou Wen was confident that he could survive. The fat chick lay on Zhou Wen's lap. The antelope occupied 2 seats. Zhou Wen had brought them along. After the group arrived at Mount Leijun, Zhou Wen and Lai Xuan familiarly led the way and soon arrived in front of Mount Leijun's wordless monument. They met a few people when they went up the mountain. It was unknown what they were here for, but they had stopped in front of the wordless monument as if they were here to see it. "Elder Jun, your surname is Jun. This is also Mount Leijun. I think this is your blessed land," a middle-aged man said to the old man beside him in a sycophantic manner. Chapter 486, Seeing Potential from Actions. Zhou Wen and company arrived in front of the wordless monument, preparing to look at it. "Students, can you wait for a while before you view the wordless monument later?" The middle-aged man walked over and said. "Why?" Lai Xuan asked. "This is our East District's Taoist expert, Elder Jun Tingyu. He's here to study the wordless monument. If you were to look at it now and be affected by its power, it'd inevitably disrupt Elder Jun's research, said the middle-aged man. It's all right, let them take a look at it first, Jun Tingyu said. Since Jun Tingyu had already spoken, the middle-aged man did not say anything else and returned to the group. Zhou Wen and company took out the items they had brought with them, before preparing to look at the wordless monument. This was because they would be affected by the wordless monument if they looked at it for extended periods of time. They would become hyperactive and would do things that expended stamina, so they prepared some tools to do what they wanted. For example, Tian Xiangdong had prepared 2 dumbbells. In a while, he wanted to lift the dumbbells to consume his stamina. Tian Zhenjin had prepared a yoga mat and planned to do yoga. Apart from Gu Dian, everyone had brought some tools. Jun Tingyu looked at the things they prepared and seemed interested. He smiled as he sized them up. Elder Jun, I heard that the power of the wordless monument can put people in a hyperactive state. Then, if one uses this stimulus for learning, can one improve their results? Asked the middle-aged man, Lai Mingcan. Jun Tingyu smiled and said, This idea isn't bad, but it's actually very difficult to implement it. Legend has it that Mount Laojun is the place where the founder of Taoism secluded himself. His thoughts are mainly about the Tao. The Tao is about nature in search of the origins of all things to obtain the great Tao of heaven and man. I don't completely understand the meaning and power of this wordless monument, but based on my understanding of Laojun, I guess that it must be a power that pursues nature and returns to self. Elder Jun, can you speak human? We still can't understand such profoundness, Lai Mingcan said. If my guess is correct, the wordless monument should be able to stimulate one's innate potential, so when it plays its role, humans will act according to their own hearts. They will ignore the constraints of the mortal world and do what they want to do deep down. The things that they have prepared beforehand are things that people feel they should do. However, what they want to do deep down will not be affected by the worldly factors, so what they do after viewing the wordless monument is often different from what they want to do now. Take a student, for example. He believes that he should study hard, but that's only because of societal norms. What he thinks he should do is due to external factors. However, what he really wants to do doesn't necessarily have to be studying. Or rather, more than 95% of people would never want to study deep down. Therefore, even if he brings a book, he wouldn't read it. Is there no way to solve this problem and use the power of the wordless monument on a specific topic that one wants to do? Lai Mingcan asked again. At the beginning, when the influence is relatively low, one can still control it a little. But after looking at the wordless monument for a long time, the innate potential in one's heart will become completely stimulated, making it very difficult to control. Unless it's a sage or Buddha, it's difficult for anyone to control their instincts, Jun Tingyu said. As they spoke, Zhou Wen and company were already sitting in front of the wordless monument, staring at it. The longer one looked at the wordless monument, the greater the influence they would receive. However, it also depended on the degree of determination one had. If one's willpower was stronger, then even if one looked at it for a long time, the impact would be smaller than that of an average person. But this determination might not necessarily be a good thing. Instead, it could be an obstacle. Due to external factors, humans would do many things that went against their conscience. For example, many people felt that work was a burden and wanted to go out without worries. However, due to various external factors, one could not resist the impulse. One had to do something that they were unwilling to do, and they had to think of ways to make themselves do the work. If one's willpower was too strong, it was very likely that they would forget their innate pursuits and find it difficult to stimulate their innate potential. In that case, won't the items they prepared be completely useless? Lai Mingcan said as he looked at the tools like Xuan and company had prepared. Only if his original intentions are the same as his current thoughts, otherwise, they really won't be of much use. Jun Tingyu spoke conservatively. In fact, he believed that those things were basically useless. I originally wanted to bring my books over to learn something. Thankfully, I didn't bring them, said Lai Mingcan with a smile. Jun Tingyu said, actually, it's not that you can't read, but that's only if you like it. From the actions that arise from looking at the wordless monument, you can also see a person's potential in the future. For example, a person who would subconsciously practice his fist after looking at the wordless monument would definitely be extraordinary in fist arts in the future. If a person were to subconsciously practice his swordplay after looking at the wordless monument, then his sword art would definitely be extraordinary in the future. They had been chatting and had not deliberately looked at the wordless monument, so they were less affected. However, Zhou Wen and company had been looking at the wordless monument at a close distance. Tian Xiangdong, who had the worst willpower, was quickly affected. It didn't take long before he couldn't sit still. He stood up and began running in circles. Elder Jun, you're right. The things he brought are useless. But what kind of potential does he have considering how he's running in circles? Does it mean that he will be very proficient in movement techniques in the future? Lai Mingcan asked. This isn't easy to interpret. You can also interpret it that way. It's just a possibility. Jun Tingyu actually had another explanation, but he didn't say it out loud. Running was also a manifestation of psychological evasion. Zhou Wen looked at the wordless monument for a while. He originally wished to figure out something. Perhaps he could improve his Tao body and condense a life soul. But to his surprise, even if he circulated the wordless monument's essence energy art, there was no reaction from the wordless monument. After looking at it for a while, he felt really bored. He took out his phone and started grinding dungeons. Zhou Wen's actions immediately attracted the attention of Lai Mingcan and company. Lai Mingcan asked curiously, Elder Jun, that student actually began gaming after seeing the wordless monument. What does that mean? Jun Tingyu shook his head and said, although everyone will enjoy fun deep down, most people still subconsciously have some pursuits. To be completely immersed in a game like him, his future achievements will probably not be too high. Or rather, his achievements will be related to games. Jun Tingyu had minced his words. In such an era, it was obvious that a student who was engrossed in gaming would not have any achievements. Chapter 487, Why is the difference so great? Zhou Wen naturally heard their words, but he didn't mind what others said, so he continued grinding. After the antelope arrived at Mount Leijun, it strolled around on its own. This delighted Zhou Wen, but he never expected the fat bird to follow him. This left him somewhat depressed. Perhaps it was because they had known each other for a long time that the two of them had become so familiar with each other. The bird and antelope looked more and more in tune with each other. After a short while, the others started to move. Tian Zhenjin's yoga mat didn't serve its purpose as expected. Instead, she started practicing her swordplay. This was still quite normal. The others were a little abnormal. Just like Zhou Wen, Huang Jai took out his phone and began gaming crazily. Gu Dian took out a bunch of food from his backpack. They were basically all kinds of dried meat and drumsticks. He sat there and began eating. Wang Lu had prepared a canvas and a pen, and she started drawing there. This time, Lai Chuan was completely different from the last time he came. The last time he came, he did push-ups so crazily that he couldn't even lift his arms for 2 days. But this time, he actually sat there without doing anything. He closed his eyes as if he was resting. No one knew what he was thinking. Elder Jun, what's your take on them? Lai Mingcan looked at Jun Tingyu, unsure of what to say. Jun Tingyu shook his head and sighed. There are indeed some problems with the potential of these students. They either eat or game. There are also those who are resting with their eyes closed. If the students of the Federation all have such thoughts, then I'm afraid the Federation has no future. Jun Tingyu was truly worried about the Federation's future. The Federation was already in a state of turmoil, yet these young people were all so depraved. It was hard to imagine how the Federation would be able to survive with these young people who spent all their time gaming, eating, and drawing. Even though Lai Mingqian did not know much about the wordless monument, he could tell that gaming, eating meat, drawing, and so on were definitely not good manifestations of potential. Finally, Jun Tingyu's brows relaxed. Ming Ziyu stood up, used the practice sword he had on his lap, and began practicing. The sword art he practiced was the same as Tian Zhenjin's. In fact, Tian Zhenjin learned her sword art from him, so naturally it was identical. However, there was one thing that was different. Ming Ziyu did not completely practice his sword art. He only constantly drew his sword and stabbed out, doing the same action repeatedly. Lai Mingqian finally saw someone looking like he was doing something decent and asked Jun Tingyu, "Elder Jun, what does it mean for this student to repeatedly draw his sword?" Jun Tingyu praised, "Good, this student is really good." "Elder Jun, may I ask how is he good?" Lai Mingqian asked Jun Tingyu. "Although it's only one move, I can tell that his foundation is very stable. He's still when he's calm, but as swift as a rabbit when moving. He holds his sword steadily and firmly. He thrusts out his sword fast and accurately. Despite having such a foundation, he's still pursuing perfection. He's not satisfied with his own achievements, and he's also able to endure boredom and loneliness. This student's future accomplishments in sword arts will definitely be extraordinary. If there's no surprise, he'll definitely become a famous person in the way of the sword." Jun Tingyu was not stingy with his praise. Firstly, it was because Ming Ziyu was very outstanding. It wasn't an exaggeration to praise him. Secondly, it was because after seeing Zhou Wen and the other jokers, seeing an outstanding student like Ming Ziyu was simply stunning. If our Federation can have a few more youngsters like this, why would we need to worry about not being able to survive in the future? The more Jun Tingyu looked at Ming Ziyu, the more he liked him. The more he looked at him, the happier he became. He even felt some regret that Ming Ziyu wasn't his student. He wanted to nurture him well so that he could become useful to the Federation in the future. Lai Mingqian also said wistfully, "It looks like our Federation's younger generation still has some talent. They're not all people who only know how to engage in revelry." As they spoke, they saw Feng Qiuyan stand up and use his hand as a saber to practice his saber art. Lai Mingqian saw that Feng Qiuyan's moves were simple. They weren't very ostentatious, but they had a unique aura. He felt that this student was somewhat different from the rest. And when Feng Qiuyan's saber art landed in Jun Tingyu's eyes, his eyes lit up. He said excitedly, "A genius! What a genius!" "Elder Jun, what's going on?" Lai Mingqian was shocked. Jun Tingyu usually had a sage-like demeanor. He had been with him for so long, but he had never seen him lose his composure. Jun Tingyu stared at Feng Qiuyan without blinking, as though he was admiring a peerless treasure. The student has actually managed to master this saber art at such a young age. He's practically a natural saber user. No, it should be said that he's a natural saber king. Jun Tingyu was someone with good eyesight. Otherwise, he wouldn't have been able to tell that Feng Qiuyan's saber arts were good. Feng Qiuyan's saber arts were indeed impressive. He had the chance to become a grandmaster in the future. How could Jun Tingyu not be surprised to see such saber arts and saber force from a teenager? The last time he saw such a saber art, it came from a famous saber expert in the Federation. That person had already been famous for 20 to 30 years, but was declining now. It was impossible for him to advance any further. As for Feng Qiuyan, his future was limitless. No one knew how far he could go in the future. It's too perfect. There's actually such a perfect genius in this world. I didn't come to Mount Leijun for nothing. Mingqian, help me ask for his contact details later. Oh right, there's also that student who's practicing his swordplay. With such geniuses, there's hope for the future of the Federation. Jun Tingyu could hardly contain his excitement. All he wanted to do now was to recruit these two talented young people as his students and ask which school they were from. If possible, he wanted to make them his students and mentor them as his graduate students. They could study at the college he worked at. I'll ask them now. Lai Mingqian could naturally tell that Jun Tingyu really valued these two young men and was ready to go over. Don't disturb them. Let's wait for them to finish their training before heading over. If you go over now, it'll inevitably disrupt their train of thought. It won't be good if it affects them. Jun Tingyu hurriedly pulled Lai Mingqian to prevent him from disturbing Feng Qiuyan and Ming Ziyu. Jun Tingyu watched from the side. The more he looked at them, the more he found them pleasing to the eye and realized how promising they were. When he looked at the clowns beside them, the glutton had almost finished 10 kilograms of jerkies. He couldn't help but sigh. They're both students, but why is the difference so great? Chapter 488, Fusion Idea. Jun Tingyu was very patient. He found a spot not far away and sat down. The more he looked at Feng Qiuyan and Ming Ziyu practice, the more he liked them. Zhou Wen was grinding the Metalwork Temple Instance Dungeon. He had already gone to the Cursed Demon Palace. With the six-winged guardian dragon, he was still no match for Medusa inside the Cursed Demon Palace. The main reason was that the palace was limited in size. When Medusa's strength swept out, there wasn't much space to hide from it. He and the six-winged guardian dragon could only fight head-on with Medusa. Medusa's terrifying eyes of petrification would petrify him and the six-winged guardian dragon. Demonic Neonate did not have a place to hide either. It was very easy for her to die in the palace, and she couldn't showcase her worth. Therefore, Zhou Wen decided not to try the Cursed Demon Palace for the time being. He decided to head to the Music Temple and the depths of the Metalwork Temple. Inside the Metalwork Temple, Zhou Wen summoned the Fire Furnace Queen, six-winged guardian dragon guard, and the Fortune Goldfish. Then, he brought the baby tiger and charged forward. The Fortune Goldfish's stats gave luck +4 in the Metalwork Temple. Occasionally, there would be fluctuations. In addition to Lucky Baby Tiger's luck +5, a total of 9 luck wasn't a joke. The drop rate nearly doubled. When Zhou Wen was farming monsters, he felt that the drop rate was especially high. The chances of essence energy skills and companion eggs dropping were also significantly higher. However, Zhou Wen wasn't interested in ordinary essence energy skills or companion beasts. The companion eggs that often appeared here were legendary Steel Cauldron fire sprites. Although fire elemental companion beasts were pretty good, with the Fire Furnace Queen, Steel Cauldron fire sprites were naturally useless. Fire Cannon, Metal Heavy Fist, and Flame Protection were the most commonly dropped essence energy skills. Before long, Zhou Wen had mastered them and had reached rank 9. However, these essence energy skills had very ordinary effects. Zhou Wen didn't usually need them. Fire Furnace Queen was clearly a rare monster. Zhou Wen passed through several huge palaces and corridors before finally encountering one. Unfortunately, only one strength crystal dropped after killing it. As he walked further in, he found more common dimensional creatures such as Steel Cauldron fire sprites, hammer metal golems, and so on. If not for the fact that he wanted to see what was deep inside the Metalwork Temple, Zhou Wen wouldn't have bothered killing them. Buzz! 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 When Zhou Wen controlled the blood-colored avatar to come to a large hall, he heard an extremely odd sound that sounded like the rumbling of an operating machine. As expected, the moment the blood-colored avatar entered the hall, it saw a strange metal monster sprawled inside. It looked like a war vehicle that resembled a tank, but its outer appearance was round. It looked like a small flying saucer. It was more than 3 meters tall and 5 meters in diameter. There were many holes around it. When it saw the blood-colored avatar enter, the strange war vehicle began spinning. Flames spewed out from the holes. Due to the rotation, The war vehicle was like a huge metal spinning top that spewed flames. Boom! The six-winged guardian dragon slapped down with its claws, reducing the strange war vehicle into a pile of scrap metal. Killed an epic creature, Inferno Tank. Discovered dimensional crystal. Realizing that it was a 38 valued essence energy crystal, Zhou Wen picked it up and held it in the blood-colored avatar's hand as he continued walking forward. As he went further in, the number of such Inferno Tanks increased. After killing 20 to 30 of them, an Inferno Tank companion egg dropped. The Inferno Tank stats were considered pretty good at the epic stage, but it was useless for Zhou Wen. However, one skill of the Inferno Tank attracted his attention. The Essence Energy skill was called Rampage. When the Inferno Tank used this skill, it would be almost invincible, or rather, a dominance body. Even the six-winged guardian dragon wouldn't be able to kill it in that period of time. This skill is good stuff, but the Inferno Tank is too weak. I wonder if I can fuse Rampage onto other pets. Zhou Wen thought carefully and suddenly had an idea. Recently, he had been trying to obtain armor-type companion beasts. Ever since the mutated stone Kai died, Zhou Wen didn't have any armor-type companion beasts. The defenses of ordinary Kai were too weak. It was useless against mythical creatures, as they were paper. That failed to meet Zhou Wen's requirements. Since there aren't any ready-made armor-type companion beasts, can I fuse one myself? If I combine the life providence, life soul, and skills I want onto a companion beast, perhaps I can create an armor-type companion beast that's stronger than the mutated stone Kai. Let me think about it. It's best if the life providence is the three-eyed golden warrior's golden body. That will enhance the defense greatly. I can also have the skill, invulnerable golden body. Which life soul should I choose? Zhou Wen silently calculated. Just considering life providence, life soul, and skills was clearly insufficient. This was because there was a problem with compatibility. If the compatibility was too low, even if the two pets had life providences and skills that Zhou Wen needed, it would be difficult to successfully fuse them. Furthermore, after the two pets fused, the product's stats would change. It might not be able to retain the life soul or skills that Zhou Wen wanted. Therefore, it was almost impossible to try to produce one in one or two fusions. Zhou Wen thought about all the pet attributes he knew. Although he had a few skills and life providences that he thought were good, he still felt that they weren't perfect. Furthermore, after trying it out, he realized that the compatibility between some pets was too low. It was almost impossible to succeed through multiple fusions. Just as Zhou Wen was fretting over this, a dimensional creature that he had never seen appeared deep within the metalwork temple. It was a heavy armored warrior that was completely made of metal. When the six-winged guardian dragon slapped down with its claws, a golden pattern appeared on the body of the armored warrior. It looked like he was made of raw metal. It was strange yet beautiful. It appeared on the black-gray armor, causing the originally ordinary armor to become gorgeous and resplendent. Clang! The six-winged guardian dragon's claw struck the head of the armored warrior, but it was actually blocked by a pair of arms. The stone floor beneath its feet cracked, but the armored warrior didn't suffer any damage at all. Hey, this fellow is interesting. Zhou Wen's eyes lit up. Clang! 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 The six-winged guardian dragon swiped down with its claws one after another, slamming heavily on the arms of the armored warrior, smashing the armored warrior into the ground like a nail. However, the armored warrior suffered several heavy blows, and only a fine crack appeared on the armor on his arm. It did not shatter. Clang! After another heavy blow, the shiny patterns on the armored warrior's body that looked like magma shattered. As the patterns shattered, the armor was also smashed into pieces at the same time. It was just an empty shell without any creature inside. Killed an epic creature, runic heavy armored warrior. Discovered dimensional crystal. Chapter 489, Divine Armament. This fellow is an epic creature. He's actually able to withstand a few consecutive strikes from the six-winged guardian dragon. How impressive is his defense? What's the light pattern on his body? A skill, life providence, or life soul? Zhou Wen's interest was piqued as he began searching for the runic heavy armored warrior in the metalwork temple. Luckily, this type of epic runic heavy armored warrior was not rare. However, it was only found in the nearby area, and behind it was a square. There were quite a number of runic heavy armored warriors on the square, and behind them was a strange building half embedded in the mountain wall. The building was completely made of metal. It looked like half a huge metal ship was embedded in the mountain wall. Above the building was a metal statue holding a forging tool. It must be the god of metalworking. These runic heavy armored warriors were guarding the nearby temple. Seeing that there was no other path, Zhou Wen knew that the strange metal palace was probably the end of the metalwork temple. He wasn't in a hurry to enter, so he searched outside for runic heavy armored warriors to hunt. There were only about 100 runic heavy armored warriors in the vicinity. It wasn't that easy to have a companion egg drop. Zhou Wen was already mentally prepared to grind a few more times, but with the lucky baby tiger and fortune goldfish's double augmentation in luck, he actually managed to get a runic heavy armored warrior companion egg drop. Zhou Wen hurriedly checked the stats of the runic heavy armored warrior and was overjoyed. Runic heavy armored warrior, epic. Life providence, heavy armored warrior. Life soul, blessed combat runes. Strength, 36. Speed, 29. Constitution, 37. Essence energy, 34. Talent skill, Fist of War, Rampage, Heart of Enrage. Companion form, heavy armor. From the looks of it, those magma-like patterns should be his life soul, blessed combat runes. Furthermore, he also has the skill, Rampage. I wonder if this fellow can fuse with the three-eyed golden warrior. If he can fuse into a companion beast with the golden body life providence and blessed combat runes life soul, I wonder if the defense will improve greatly when he's in armor form. Zhou Wen didn't have any three-eyed golden warriors at the moment, but ordinary golden warriors had the golden body life providence as well. He might not necessarily need to use a three-eyed golden warrior. He put the runic heavy armored warrior together with the golden warrior and checked their compatibility. He discovered that their compatibility was 76. Without much hesitation, he chose to fuse them. With a bang, the companion egg and the golden warrior burst into smoke. The fusion failed. Zhou Wen was immediately taken aback. He found it unbelievable that the fusion had failed, despite a compatibility score of 76. Furthermore, he had two lucky pets with him. From the looks of it, the goddess of luck will occasionally have some hiccups, Zhou Wen muttered to himself. Thankfully, golden warriors and runic heavy armored warrior weren't rare. One was at the legendary stage, while the other was at the epic stage, so it was relatively easy to grind them. However, Zhou Wen had killed all the runic heavy armored warrior in the area. He needed to drip blood to respawn them. Zhou Wen didn't respawn immediately. Instead, he walked towards the metalwork temple. He wanted to see what was inside. The metal hall's door was very heavy. Zhou Wen controlled the blood-colored avatar to use all his strength before pushing open a crack. A warm surge rushed out from the temple. It nearly made an epic expert like Zhou Wen feel like he was about to be roasted. He quickly used the inverse ancient sovereign life soul to make himself feel better. Then, he slowly pushed open the metal door and looked into the temple. There was a huge furnace in the main temple. Above the furnace was a golden trident. It was indescribably majestic, as if it was a divine item from heaven. Golden trident. Zhou Wen had heard of such a weapon. Legend had it that the weapon of Poseidon was a trident. It was a divine armament that controlled all the seas in the world and possessed the power to destroy the world. Poseidon relied on the power of the trident to release a huge flood that could destroy the world in an attempt to compete with the goddess of wisdom for the control of the land. There were all sorts of legends about the origins of the trident. One legend claimed that the trident was a divine armament forged by the god of metalworking. Of course, Zhou Wen didn't know if the golden trident was Poseidon's trident. Furthermore, in the legends of other religions, the trident represented the devil, Satan's weapon, because its prongs were one long and two short. It was very similar in characteristics and was considered a symbol of evil. This was the temple of the god of metalworking, so it likely didn't have anything to do with Satan. Zhou Wen felt that the possibility of the former was higher. Even if it wasn't Poseidon's trident, it should be a rather good weapon. As Zhou Wen was pondering over it, he saw the golden trident emit a powerful golden divine light. The flames in the furnace also rose crazily, turning the entire temple into a sea of flames. The flames were extremely terrifying. With Zhou Wen's physique, he was unable to withstand them and was about to be burned to death. The baby tiger was in an even worse shape. It died in the flames and was burned to ashes. The fortune goldfish and the fire furnace queen were not afraid of flames at all, and the six-winged guardian dragon guardian appeared as if nothing had happened. They weren't afraid, but Zhou Wen couldn't afford not to be. With a thought, the six-winged guardian dragon transformed into 6 flaming wings and appeared behind the blood-colored avatar. The flames on the dragon wings resisted the surrounding flames, giving Zhou Wen a lot of benefits. The silver water snake was summoned as well. It spat out a stream of water to fight against the surrounding flames. Unfortunately, its water jet was obviously weak. The moment it came into contact with the flames, it evaporated immediately. It was useless. Zhou Wen was just about to try pulling out the golden trident when he suddenly saw the furnace shake. The golden trident flew out of the furnace and pointed at the blood-colored avatar. Boom! A golden beam shot out from the trident, melting the entire temple into a golden beam like the sun. Zhou Wen saw that the screen was filled with golden light. He couldn't see anything. By the time the screen recovered, it had already darkened. Clearly, the blood-colored avatar was already dead. What the hell? Zhou Wen was somewhat depressed. He had been instantly killed. If he had known, he wouldn't have made the 6-winged guardian dragon transform into dragon wings. With the 6-winged guardian dragon in front of him, it shouldn't have been that easy to be instantly killed. Zhou Wen was just about to respawn with a drop of blood and enter the game when he heard the few people who had been resting nearby walking towards them. He couldn't help but look up. Chapter 490. I only want to learn from Coach. Ming Ziu stopped his practice. The influence of the wordless monument had disappeared from his body. Ming Ziu was just about to look at the wordless monument again to continue practicing when he saw Zhun Tingyu walking over with his group of people. Hi, can we have a chat? Seeing Ming Ziu stop practicing, Zhun Tingyu walked over impatiently. Hello, what's it about? Ming Ziu asked Zhun Tingyu doubtfully. Zhun Tingyu looked at Lai Mingken. There were some things that he couldn't say, but if he didn't say them, it would be difficult to move a talent like Ming Ziu. Of course, Lai Mingken understood Zhun Tingyu's intentions. He lightly coughed and said to Ming Ziu, Hi, what's your name? Which school are you studying at? My name is Ming Ziu. I'm a first-year student at Bright Prospects College. I'm now studying at Sunset College on exchange. This wasn't a secret, so there was no need to hide it. Ming Ziu told the truth. Only a first year. Zhun Tingyu's eyes lit up. Ming Ziu was more outstanding than he had imagined. He had originally thought that Ming Ziu was already a 3rd or 4th year student, but he hadn't expected that he would still be a first-year student. He was even younger and more outstanding than he had imagined. Furthermore, when he heard that Ming Ziu was a student at Bright Prospects College, but was only now on exchange at Sunset College, Zhun Tingyu became more confident. If he was really a student of Sunset College, with Ming Ziu's excellent performance, he would definitely be heavily nurtured. However, Bright Prospects College was far from being on the same level as Sunset College. As for the Imperial Capital College, where he hailed from, it was definitely not inferior to Sunset College. Its ranking was even higher. As long as he had enough chips and sincerity, he wasn't afraid that Ming Xiu would be tempted. Should he be an exchange student at Sunset College, or should he directly go to Imperial Capital to be his graduate student? Any student with the ability to judge should know how to choose. Ming Xiu, let me do the introductions. This Mr. Zhun Tingyu, a tutor from Imperial Capital College and also an honorary vice-chancellor. He's a famous Taoist expert. Lai Mingqian listed a lot of titles. Even without those titles, just being a tutor of Imperial Capital College was enough to make people respect him. Ming Xiu, are you interested in studying at the Imperial Capital College? I happen to be short of 2 graduate students. I can also apply for a scholarship for you. Zhun Tingyu interrupted Lai Mingqian. Lai Mingqian had gone overboard with the accolades. Ming Xiu finally understood that this old man in front of him wanted to recruit him into the Imperial Capital College. I'm sorry to disappoint you. Without any hesitation, Ming Xiu rejected Zhun Tingyu. Originally, he hadn't wanted to come to Sunset College. Now he did not want to go to Imperial Capital College. Why? If you have any difficulties, you can tell me. I can think of a way to help you resolve them. Zhun Tingyu was slightly taken aback. He didn't expect Ming Xiu to directly reject him. There aren't any difficulties, but I still wish to stay at Sunset College for my studies, said Ming Xiu. If I remember correctly, Bright Prospects College's exchange students will only be studying at Sunset College for 3 months, right? In 3 months, you will be returning to Bright Prospects College, right? Zhun Tingyu looked at Ming Xiu and asked. He suspected that he had remembered wrongly. That's right. I have less than a month left in Sunset College, Ming Xiu said with a nod. Then, why aren't you willing to go to the Imperial Capital College? Zhun Tingyu was even more confused. Because someone here can teach me things that I can't learn from anywhere else, Ming Xiu said seriously. Zhun Tingyu noticed that Ming Xiu was speaking very seriously and didn't seem to be patronizing him. He thought for a moment and said, Sunset College is indeed a very good college. It won't be much inferior to our Imperial Capital College. However, if one were to say that the teaching standards here are better than the Imperial Capital Colleges, that's not necessarily the case. In the entire Sunset College, I, Zhun Tingyu, only admire Leng Xingzheng. Your tutor isn't Leng Xingzheng, right? No, Ming Xiu shook his head. Then who is your tutor? Zhun Tingyu asked again. It doesn't matter who my tutor is. My staying at Sunset College isn't because of the tutor, but because there's someone here. To me, he's the best coach. He's someone no one can replace. He taught me how a sword should be used, said Ming Xiu. Oh, who is he? Zhun Tingyu was a little interested. To be able to teach such an outstanding student like Ming Xiu, Zhun Tingyu believed that he must be a highly respected tutor, or perhaps a sword arts master. Perhaps it was some special treatment the college had given Ming Xiu. However, Ming Xiu turned around and pointed his finger in one direction. Then he said, That's him. He's my coach. Zhun Tingyu was a little surprised. He didn't expect Ming Xiu's coach to be here as well. However, when he looked in the direction Ming Xiu was pointing, he was instantly shocked. There was only one person in the direction Ming Xiu was pointing. It was Zhou Wen, who was gaming there. At that moment, Zhou Wen had entered the dungeon and continued playing his game. It looked like the battle was extremely intense. You're saying that the student who's playing games is your coach. Zhun Tingyu thought that Ming Xiu had made a mistake. The person who could teach such a genius student was naturally a true expert. How could it be a student, and such a student at that? Yes, he's my coach. He taught me how to use the sword, so even if there's less than a month left, I still hope to learn from him, Ming Ziu said seriously. Zhun Tingyu, Lai Mingcan, and the others all had their mouths agape, unable to speak. From Ming Ziu's expression, it didn't seem like he was spouting nonsense. However, to give up the chance of going to Imperial Capital College as a graduate student with Zhun Tingyu for just another month of study with another student, this was simply incomprehensible to them. Ming Ziu, you should consider it again. Although that student might have something extraordinary about him, there's definitely a gap between him and a famous tutor like Elder Zhun. You're too young, so you might not know much about him. Among the students taught by Elder Zhun, many of them are already famous epic experts in the Federation, Lai Mingcan said. Zhun Tingyu, a mentor at the Imperial Capital College, the honorary vice-chancellor, and a famous Taoist expert. He has the reputation of being a famous Taoist master, and his strength is outstanding. He even taught Lai Zijian, Zhang Huiyu, and other famous epic experts of the Federation. He groomed more than 30 epic experts for the Federation. Ming Ziu recounted Zhun Tingyu's accolades as though he knew them all. But in the end, he bowed slightly to Zhun Tingyu and said, "Thank you for your kind offer. If this was before I came to Sunset College and met Coach, I would have agreed to follow you to Imperial Capital College without any hesitation. But now, even if there's only one day left, I still wish to learn from Coach." Zhun Tingyu and Lai Mingcan were both dumbfounded. They watched as Ming Ziu turned around and walked to the wordless monument. He sat down and continued to look at the monument. They were unable to regain their senses for a long time. Suddenly, they heard a saber hum go straight into the clouds. They turned their heads and saw Feng Qiuyan slash at the sky with his palm like it was a saber. He was like a heaven-defying dragon. His aura was terrifying, as though he could slice apart the heavens and earth. Life soul. He actually condensed a life soul. Heavens! How old is he? Zhun Tingyu's body trembled as he widened his eyes in disbelief at Feng Qiuyan. It was as if he had seen a ghost. Chapter 491, The Luck of a Lifetime. As time passed, various dimensional zones were developed. More and more geniuses appeared among humans, and the age for reaching the epic stage was declining. However, even the geniuses of the 6 families would usually only have the chance to advance to the epic stage when they were in their 20s or 30s. These were people with extraordinary talent. The college student in front of him had already advanced to the epic stage and condensed a life soul. Even though he was used to seeing geniuses at Imperial Capital College, he could not help but be surprised and happy. This is a rare genius that only appears once in 100 years. I have to think of a way to recruit him as my disciple. I definitely can't miss out on such a genius. Zhun Tingyu only wanted to take Feng Qiuyan as his graduate student. Under the power of the wordless monument, Feng Qiuyan constantly practiced his saber, finally gaining some insight. He felt like he had yet to fully vent something in him, so he couldn't help but unleash his true strength and slash out the saber that slashed at the heavens. After slashing out, Feng Qiuyan calmed down significantly. He retracted his palm and converged his essence energy. "Hello, I'm Imperial Capital College's tutor, Zhun Tingyu. What's your name?" Zhun Tingyu couldn't wait for Lai Mingcan to introduce him. He walked over impatiently, took out his name card, and handed it to Feng Qiuyan. Feng Qiuyan was puzzled and looked at Zhun Tingyu, unsure why he was here for him. "Feng Qiuyan, are you willing to be my graduate student at the Imperial Capital College? I can apply for the best scholarship for you. Furthermore, you can directly work in my laboratory and participate in the project I'm researching. During this period of time, you can enjoy the treatment of a researcher. I will also apply for passage to all the dimensional zones in Imperial Capital College for you." Zhun Tingyu couldn't wait to throw out all his chips. He really wanted Feng Qiuyan. It was easy to obtain 1,000 soldiers, but not a general. There were many humans who could cultivate, but very few had the chance to break through to the mythical stage. It had been so many years, and the number of people who had the ability to break through to the mythical stage could be counted on one hand. From Zhun Tingyu's point of view, Feng Qiuyan was the person who could very likely break through to the mythical stage. If he could be carefully nurtured by him, he might become a legend of the Federation in the future. "Sorry, I have no intention of leaving Sunset College," Feng Qiuyan said. After experiencing Ming Xiu's previous experience, Zhun Tingyu's mental fortitude was much greater. After being rejected, he didn't feel too agitated. He asked Feng Qiuyan, "Why are you refusing? Does Sunset College give you better treatment than me? I'm only a first-year student at Sunset College. I don't receive any special treatment, nor do I need any special treatment," Feng Qiuyan said. Another first year. Zhun Tingyu looked at Feng Qiuyan with an even more fervent gaze. This was simply a gifted talent. A first-year student was only 17 years old. A 17-year-old epic was just too shocking. It was likely that not many of the 6 families could produce such a powerful genius. "No, I have to think of a way to poach him away from Sunset College. From his looks, he doesn't seem to lack money. His background must be extraordinary. If his surname is Feng, could he be a descendant of the Feng family?" Zhun Tingyu pondered for a moment before asking. Although the Feng surname is the #1 surname in ancient times, there aren't many people with the surname Feng in the present world. Now, there are 2 famous Feng family clans. They are situated at the capital and Sea Return. "Which one are you?" "Sea Return's Feng family," Feng Qiuyan replied. Zhun Tingyu was overjoyed when he heard that. "Old Master Feng born from the Feng family of Sea Return, and I have a good relationship. I have some understanding of your Feng family's essence energy art. If you are willing to study at the Imperial Capital College with me, I can provide you with a special wind stat crystal. It's sufficient for your cultivation." A special wind elemental crystal wasn't something that could be bought with money. It could only be obtained by hunting wind elemental dimensional creatures. However, wind elemental dimensional creatures were relatively rare, and their drop rate was low. The Sea Return Feng family's essence energy art required a large amount of wind elemental crystals to advance to a higher realm. As a result, the Feng family's wind elemental crystals were never enough. They needed to spend large amounts of resources to purchase them. Even so, it was still not enough. He had made a generous offer that even Zhun Tingyu felt his heart ache. From his point of view, Feng Qiuyan didn't have any reason to reject him. A wind elemental crystal was too important to the Feng family. "Sorry, I don't plan on leaving Sunset College." Feng Qiuyan didn't hesitate as he rejected him once again. Zhun Tingyu was somewhat stunned. He looked at Feng Qiuyan and asked, "Can you tell me why you're unwilling to go to Imperial Capital College?" Lai Mingcan and company also looked at Feng Qiuyan. They really couldn't figure out why Feng Qiuyan would reject him. If Zhun Tingyu gave any university student those conditions, they would usually follow Zhun Tingyu to Imperial Capital College without any hesitation. Let alone poaching a first-year student, the offer was more than enough for poaching a famous researcher. Furthermore, Zhun Tingyu was willing to offer the wind elemental crystals from his prized collection. This was simply a blessing from the heavens. They really couldn't understand why Feng Qiuyan would reject him. Was his brain damaged? Feng Qiuyan said matter-of-factly, "Because there's Coach here, but there's no one like him in Imperial Capital College." Hearing the word Coach, Zhun Tingyu, Lai Mingcan, and the others felt their hearts skip a beat. They thought, "It can't be." Zhun Tingyu's expression was extremely odd. He glanced at Zhou Wen, who was gaming not far away. He then looked at Feng Qiuyan and asked, "Which coach are you referring to?" "He's right there." Feng Qiuyan pointed at Zhou Wen, who was gaming. Although they were mentally prepared, when Feng Qiuyan pointed at Zhou Wen, Zhun Tingyu and company's expressions changed. Zhun Tingyu's emotions were extremely complicated as he looked at Zhou Wen with a strange gaze. Lai Mingqian could no longer hold back his anger. He could not help but ask, Feng Qiuyan, you said that he's your mentor. Can you tell us who he is? His name is Zhou Wen. Just like me, he's a first-year student at Sunset College, Feng Qiuyan answered. Zhun Tingyu's heart skipped a beat. Another first-year student. Lai Mingqian asked in confusion. He's also in his first year. How can he be stronger than you? Lai Mingqian actually wanted to say, what right does he have to be your coach? However, he was someone who still cared about his reputation, so he was too embarrassed to say such words. However, in Lai Mingqian's heart, Feng Qiuyan was already an unprecedented genius. It was understandable for him to have a tutor or a famous person as his coach, but he was also a first-year student. The fellow who was addicted to gaming was actually Feng Qiuyan and Ming Xiu's coach. Lai Mingqian felt that it wasn't something to be believed at all. It was likely that Feng Qiuyan and Ming Xiu were just patronizing them, making excuses that they didn't want to go to the Imperial Capital College. Upon hearing Lai Mingqian's doubts, Feng Qiuyan immediately said seriously, Coach is obviously stronger than me. Compared to Coach, I'm worlds apart from him. I'm less than 10,000th of Coach. It's the luck of my lifetime to be able to cultivate alongside Coach. Zhun Tingyu and Lai Mingqian were dumbfounded when they heard that. They couldn't help but look at Zhou Wen. Looking at Zhou Wen, who was engrossed in the game, they really couldn't associate such a student with Feng Qiuyan's description of him. Chapter 492, Too Late. Could it be that I've misjudged him? Is that student really a genius? A genius who's stronger than Ming Xiu and Feng Qiuyan? Zhun Tingyu began to doubt himself. He could tell that Ming Xiu and Feng Qiuyan respected Zhou Wen greatly. The feelings that came from the bottom of their hearts couldn't be faked. It was impossible that they were just patronizing him. However, Zhun Tingyu couldn't believe that the fellow who was gaming was actually better than Ming Xiu and Feng Qiuyan. Feng Qiuyan had advanced to the epic stage at such a young age. It was a rare occurrence that happened only once in 100 years, but to Zhou Wen of the same age, he was like a student idolizing his teacher. He couldn't imagine what kind of person Zhou Wen was. Is there really such a genius in this world? Zhun Tingyu looked at Zhou Wen with mixed feelings. Lai Mingqian and company looked at Zhou Wen as well. They couldn't help but gulp. Even Feng Qiuyan admitted that he was less than 10,000th of him. They found it even more difficult to imagine what kind of genius he was. Teacher, could there be a deeper meaning behind this act of gaming? Lai Mingqian was a little suspicious of the previous judgment. Although he knew that it was not good to doubt Zhun Tingyu like this, he could not help but ask. Zhun Tingyu was beginning to grumble inwardly. After carefully observing Zhou Wen, who was gaming, he felt that he was indeed somewhat extraordinary. He looked calm and had an outstanding temperament. Although he was gaming, he gave off an aura that he could not be shaken even if the sky collapsed. It seemed that he was indeed different from others. In fact, this was just a psychological effect on Zhun Tingyu's part. Although Zhou Wen really wasn't just gaming, from the looks of it, he was no different from an ordinary person when gaming. To see anything from it was nothing but a joke. As Zhou Wen was gaming, his phone suddenly rang. It was his usual phone. Upon hearing the text message chime, Zhou Wen immediately jolted. This was because he had specially set up the notification sound. Only when the Thirch sent a message would he get this sound. Zhou Wen didn't dare delay as he hurriedly took out the other phone from his pocket. Indeed, it was a message from the Thirch. After such a long time, I still haven't seen any of the things that I want. I don't think you've taken my matters to heart. I really shall mete out some punishment. Otherwise, you might think that my threats are just for fun. Zhou Wen immediately broke out into cold sweat when he saw the message. He was afraid of death, and he was even more afraid that the Thirch would sever his limbs. That would be terrible. I've been being pursued recently, so I haven't had the time to buy you that equipment. Don't worry, I'll think of a way to buy them for you immediately. Even if I have to sell everything, I'll definitely help you buy everything. Zhou Wen had been too busy recently, so he had really forgotten about it. Too late. The Thirch only replied with 2 words. Zhou Wen hurriedly tried to explain. He was really afraid that the Thirch would make a wish to sever all his limbs. He was in the prime of his youth, so to have his limbs severed just because of a few darn instruments would be terrible. However, no matter how he explained, the Thirch didn't reply. This made Zhou Wen feel extremely uneasy. When Zhun Tingyu saw Zhou Wen using his phone to communicate with the Thirch, his eyes lit up. He shouted excitedly, "Genius! This person is really a genius!" Lai Mingqian and the others were shocked. Lai Mingqian quickly asked, "Elder Zhun, what have you seen?" Zhun Tingyu said, "I'm getting old. Indeed, I was wrong just now. This young man is really an extraordinary genius. It's no wonder even geniuses like Ming Ziu and Feng Qiuyan admire him so much." "Elder Zhun, how did you tell?" "Tell us." Lai Mingqian's heart was itching to know. Zhun Tingyu pointed at Zhou Wen, who was texting on his phone, and said, "The wordless monument is a power that targets the hearts of people. Even top epic experts would surrender themselves to their inner desires after being affected by the power of the wordless monument. Before they are exhausted, they definitely wouldn't be distracted, nor can they be distracted. But look at him. When he was gaming, he was actually able to use another phone to constantly send messages. This means that his mind is completely unaffected by the power of the wordless monument. To be able to maintain his willpower in such a situation means that his willpower is completely unheard of. Even saints pale in comparison. With such powerful willpower, he definitely isn't an ordinary person. No wonder." The more Zhun Tingyu looked at Zhou Wen, the more he felt that he stood out as though he had an outstanding bearing. This made it impossible for him to treat Zhou Wen as a junior any longer. Zhou Wen didn't know all the things that Zhun Tingyu had deciphered. As he had already cultivated the wordless monument's essence energy art, he wasn't affected at all. He didn't need to use his willpower to ward off the wordless monument's power. However, there was one thing Zhun Tingyu did guess correctly by sheer chance. Zhou Wen's willpower was indeed extraordinary. Zhou Wen sent several messages, but the Thirch didn't reply. He knew that this matter was likely going to blow up. He felt that it wasn't appropriate for him to stay any longer. He needed to quickly think of a way to protect himself and resist the Thirch's impending rage. In front of so many people, he couldn't make a big fuss. He had to find a place with no one around. Zhou Wen put away his phone and stood up. Seeing that Lai Qiuyan and company were still immersed in their worlds, he walked out and said to the tutor who was watching over them, "Sir, there are some matters in the school that need my attention. I'll be returning now." After receiving the tutor's approval, Zhou Wen was about to leave the mountain when Zhun Tingyu stopped him. "I'm Zhun Tingyu from the Imperial Capital College. I would like to know if you have the time to chat with me." Zhun Tingyu didn't treat Zhou Wen as a student. He had the intention to talk to him as equals. "I'm really sorry. I have something urgent to attend to and need to return to school. Let's talk again in the future," Zhou Wen said as he turned around and left. "Why is this person so rude?" Lai Mingqian said. Zhun Tingyu didn't mind it at all. Instead, he felt that Zhou Wen was even more extraordinary. He pondered and said, "Geniuses have their own personalities. Zhou Wen is indeed not an ordinary person. This is understandable. I'll go to Sunset College tomorrow to visit him." Lai Mingqian was just about to say something when he suddenly saw an antelope and a golden eagle-like bird come down from Mount Leijun. The antelope was following behind Zhou Wen, and the bird circled above his head as though it was protecting him. Lai Mingqian, Zhun Tingyu, and company were dumbfounded. The animals on Mount Leijun weren't ordinary creatures. With Mount Leijun's protection, they could be described as pets in the backyard of a saint. They had actually taken the initiative to follow Zhou Wen down the mountain. They had never heard of such a thing, so they found it unbelievable. Zhou Wen walked all the way down Mount Leijun before heading straight to campus. He felt uneasy the entire way, unsure how the Thirch would deal with him. Chapter 493, Punishment. Zhou Wen returned to school on tenterhooks the entire way. But nothing happened even when he returned to his dorm. Zhou Wen didn't dare be careless. He summoned all the companion beasts he could use and stopped sleeping in his bedroom. He stayed in the living room. With the antelope and chick by his side, he felt safer. It was strange. Ever since they had come back from Mount Leijun, the chick that was as fat as a duck had actually slimmed down again. It looked like it was in high spirits like before. Zhou Wen wasn't in the mood to study how the chick had lost weight in the blink of an eye. He sat on the sofa and placed a few notebooks to the side as he drew substitute talismans one by one. These were life-saving treasures. If he could produce one, even if the Thirch wanted to deal with him, it might be able to save his life. He drew one after another, but the success rate of a substitute talisman was really low. However, as the saying goes, practice makes perfect. Zhou Wen gradually got the gist of it after repeatedly drawing. Although this was a skill obtained from an essence energy skill crystal, Zhou Wen was the one who needed to draw the talisman. When he realized that if he only drew the symbols using essence energy, the success rate was pathetic. The lines of the substitute talisman seemed to contain some kind of profoundness. Zhou Wen sensed the strangeness of the lines and gradually figured out something. This substitute talisman needs to be drawn with my essence energy. The lines drawn are also imbued with some kind of mysterious power related to me. It looks like the drawing of a talisman, but it's actually a form of understanding of oneself. At the same time, it's also a way to communicate with external objects, Zhou Wen thought as he drew. Zhou Wen spent the entire day and night drawing. He didn't know how many substitute talismans he had drawn by the next morning. He had almost used up several thick diary books by the time he finally completed one. It was also thanks to Zhou Wen's infinite essence energy that he could do so. If it were anyone else, they probably wouldn't be able to draw so many times in a couple of months. Although the substitute talisman is useful, it's too difficult to draw one. It's really not easy to get one talisman. Zhou Wen held the substitute talisman that he had drawn and was somewhat excited. With this talisman, it was equivalent to having an additional life. Unfortunately, the substitute talisman could only be used by himself. This was because the substitute talisman that Zhou Wen drew was closely related to him, so it could only help him block calamities. As for what kind of calamity the substitute talisman could withstand, Zhou Wen didn't know. Although talisman drawing wasn't easy, Zhou Wen was thrilled by what he had gained. Talisman drawing needed him to sense the connection between himself and external objects. In this period of time, Zhou Wen kept using the Tao Sutra, allowing him to gain some insight into it. The Tao models itself after nature. To condense a life soul from the Tao Sutra, I'll probably have to work hard on heaven-man unity, Zhou Wen thought to himself. Although there were some clues, as long as there was a direction, there was a possibility. It was better than being directionless as previously. Now, Zhou Wen didn't have the time to take in nature. He stored away the substitute talisman that he had drawn and slept. Drawing the substitute talisman consumed both his essence energy and energy. He was already exhausted from all the drawing. Furthermore, he hadn't recovered from his serious injuries. Now that he had the substitute talisman to protect him, he could finally sleep peacefully. He slept soundly. Due to his exhaustion, Zhou Wen slept like a log. He only woke up when the doorbell rang. "Who is it?" Zhou Wen stretched his back and wanted to ask. Meow, however, Zhou Wen's voice shocked him. He hurriedly covered his mouth with his hand. However, when he reached out his hand, Zhou Wen was instantly stunned. How was that a hand? It was a furry paw. The fingernails on the claw were like hooks. What should have been the palm now looked like a pinkish meat lump that resembled a club suit from a pack of cards. What? What's wrong with me? Zhou Wen was alarmed. He wanted to stand up and size himself up, but he soon realized that his body had become very strange. Furthermore, there was a problem with his vision. All the furniture and things around him had become very large. The clothes he wore yesterday were at his feet. They looked huge, as though they were for giants. Zhou Wen immediately felt something amiss. He hurriedly ran to the mirror and looked at it. Meow! Looking at the black and white cat in the mirror, Zhou Wen was dumbfounded. He covered his mouth in horror, as the cat in the mirror did the same. At the dormitory's entrance, a tutor rang the doorbell a few more times, but no one opened the door. Hence, he said apologetically to the old man beside him, "Elder Jun, I'm really sorry. It looks like he's out." Jun Tingyu was very disappointed. In order to visit Zhou Wen at Sunset College, he didn't hesitate to use his connections with a friend at Sunset College, but Zhou Wen wasn't around. "It's all right, I'll come again next time." Jun Tingyu could only return in disappointment. In the dormitory, Zhou Wen was about to explode from anxiety. He twisted his body and made various poses. He even tried to raise his tail. All he wanted to do was prove that the cat in the mirror wasn't him. Unfortunately, no matter what he did, the cat in the mirror did the same thing. Even more terrifying was that, when Zhou Wen attempted to use his essence energy art or summon his companion beasts, there was no reaction. The Theurch, it must be the Theurch's doing, damn it. I have the substitute talisman on me. How can there be a problem? Zhou Wen ran to his pile of clothes and used his claws to tug at it a few times. He realized that the substitute talisman was inside his clothes, untouched. It hadn't done a thing. Don't tell me I'm now permanently a cat. Zhou Wen hurriedly took out his phone. Thankfully, he didn't need to unlock using his fingerprints. A pattern worked too. Otherwise, he wouldn't even be able to unlock his phone. After unlocking his phone, he immediately sent a message to the Theurch. "The Theurch, how am I supposed to buy those instruments when you've made me like this?" Zhou Wen knew that he could only move the Theurch with benefits. It was probably useless for him to beg for mercy. "I have plenty of ways to get people to deliver things to me." "Who said I have to let you buy them?" "As for you, you have to be punished," the Theurch finally replied. Zhou Wen sent a few more messages, hoping to move the Theurch and quickly change back into human form. However, the news was like a rock sinking into the sea. The Theurch didn't reply to him at all, as though she was determined to have him remain a cat for the rest of his life. Chapter 494. You can't be like this, okay? What should I do? Is there a way to restore my human body? Zhou Wen tried all kinds of methods, but he remained a cat. His body structure was completely different from before. He couldn't use the essence energy art or various companion beasts he had cultivated in the past. What else could he do? The antelope and chick looked at him with interest. The antelope even used its hooves to rub his head as though it was comforting him, but Zhou Wen could see the smile in its eyes. The chick bounced around him, sticking close to him as though it wanted to compete with him to see who was taller. However, when the chick stood, it was actually slightly taller than Zhou Wen when he was on all fours. "No, I have to think of a way to recover my human body." Zhou Wen used his paws to hide his phone and the bracelet which had the chaos bead embedded before walking towards the dormitory's door. Looking at this world from the perspective of a cat, his view was obviously much lower. Even the dormitory door was very large in his eyes. Zhou Wen leaped up and tried to grab the handle to unlock the door. In the past, jumping to such a height was trivial. However, even when reaching his paws to the limit, he was still quite a distance away from the door handle. His body then fell to the ground. Zhou Wen landed on the ground and used all his strength to leap up once again. Only then did he jump up and open the door handle. Although he was used to walking with two legs, If other students and teachers in school saw a cat walking with two hind legs, it would probably spell trouble. Therefore, Zhou Wen could only sprawl on the ground and walk like a cat. Although it wasn't a problem for a cat to walk like this, Zhou Wen felt extremely uncomfortable walking in such a manner. After exiting, Zhou Wen planned on heading to the Chancellor's office. Most people probably wouldn't be able to resolve his current situation. Therefore, he wanted to find the Chancellor of Sunset College, Lang Zheng. He had heard that Lang Zheng was good at dispelling illusions. Zhou Wen felt that it was impossible for him to turn into a cat, so he suspected that it was just an illusion. Zhou Wen thought to himself, at the very least, I'm a student at the school. I don't think Lang Zheng will leave me in the lurch, right? However, Zhou Wen had no confidence in Lang Zheng's ability to turn him back into a human. He only wanted to try his luck. Just as he walked to the yard, Zhou Wen heard the door to the building next door ring. He hurriedly hid in the bushes and peeked at the yard next door. Wang Lu walked out with two trash bags in her hands. It looked like she was going to throw the trash out. Zhou Wen didn't want anyone who knew him to know that he had turned into a cat. Be it like Zhou Wen or Wang Lu, they would definitely mock him for a long time. Furthermore, as a cat, he didn't have any clothes on him. Although he had fur, he still felt uncomfortable when people he knew saw him. Therefore, he didn't contact Lai Chuan and company. Although Zhou Wen knew that Wang Lu probably couldn't recognize him as a cat, it was better to be careful just in case. After Wang Lu left, Zhou Wen prepared to leave in another direction. He planned on taking a detour to the Chancellor's office, using the old school district behind Four Seasons Garden to avoid encountering so many students and tutors. Although he had become a cat, Zhou Wen couldn't tolerate having others looking at him with him being naked. The yard's door was locked from the inside. Although Zhou Wen could jump up and open the door, it was too eye-catching. He looked at the wooden fence in the yard, and then at his body. Zhou Wen felt that it wasn't difficult for his body to crawl out. Although he looked a little plump, most of it was fur. Zhou Wen came in front of the wooden fence and chose a relatively large gap. He extended his head out, and there was a perfect outcome. Without any pressure, his head squeezed out. As he continued squeezing his body, his stomach ended up stuck. Something seemed to have hooked his fur. If he tried to force his way through, he would feel a little pain. Poor kitty. Where did you come from? Why are you here? Zhou Wen was about to squeeze back when he heard a familiar voice. Not good. Zhou Wen immediately felt uncomfortable when he heard the voice. For some reason, Wang Lu had returned. Zhou Wen struggled to retreat back into the yard, but he didn't know what caught the fur on his belly. He couldn't retreat even if he tried. His belly felt like it was about to be ripped apart. Poor little guy, why are you so stupid? Wang Lu squatted down and pressed down on Zhou Wen. Then, she reached out her other hand to help him remove a wire he had been entangled with. This allowed Zhou Wen to escape before finally squeezing out. Zhou Wen wanted to leave, but he was being carried by Wang Lu. Although you look like a stray cat and aren't an expensive breed, you look quite pretty. Wanna come back with me? Zhou Wen struggled with all his might, trying to escape Wang Lu's demonic claws. After struggling to free himself, he landed on the ground and immediately ran away. Strange. That cat actually rejected me. Wang Lu was slightly surprised. She never expected the cat to be so difficult to get along with. She had a much easier time with the stray cats she had encountered in the past. Zhou Wen ran out of Four Seasons Garden as though he was fleeing for his life. Only after running for a long distance did he slow down. He felt exhausted. This was the first time in his long cultivation that he had felt this exhausted. I have to recover my human body as soon as possible. Zhou Wen continued walking forward. Before long, he saw a few ferocious tigers blocking his way. No, they should be described as fierce cats blocking the way. At the corner of the building in front, 4 cats walked out and glared at Zhou Wen as though warning him not to enter their territory. The 4 cats were a lot bigger than Zhou Wen. Furthermore, Zhou Wen found them familiar. On careful look, he recalled that they were the ones that Gu Dian secretly fed. Zhou Wen still remembered that one of them was named Little May. Her body was pure white, with only an orange-red fur growing on her forehead. She looked very striking. However, when Zhou Wen first saw her, she was still a tiny kitten. Now, she was already about the same size as her mother, a size bigger than the present Zhou Wen. "I'm just passing by. I definitely have no intention of snatching your territory, nor do I have any intention of offending you." As Zhou Wen spoke, his voice turned into meowing. He slowly walked to the side, wanting to circle around them. Meow! Little May and company didn't care much as they pounced forward, wanting to deal with the intruder, Zhou Wen. "Holy SHT, are you really treating me, a sleeping tiger, as a cat?" Zhou Wen was depressed as he prepared to fight. Although he was now a cat and had lost all his strength, his reaction and various techniques were still present. Under the combined attacks of the 4 of them, he was still as brave as ever. He used his sleek movements to restrain the 4 cats, and then tore out of them one by one. His little paws gave them a beating, causing them to mew in pain. "Ha, want to fight me? Now, do you know who's the real king here?" Zhou Wen beat the 4 cats up badly. He even used his paw to press down on Little May. Just as he was feeling smug, he suddenly felt the skin on his back being grabbed by someone. Then, he heard a familiar voice. "You can't be like this, okay?" Chapter 495, Gu Dian's Seeker. Zhou Wen flailed his 4 paws, trying to break free from his grasp, but he failed. The scene in front of him changed, a face. It was a ferocious and ghastly face, but the eyes on the face had an indescribable gentleness as they looked at him. "Were you abandoned by your master? You must be hungry after coming here, right? Have something to eat first," Gu Dian said as he placed Zhou Wen on the ground beside him. There were 2 saucers right there. One was filled with milk, while the other had cat food. Zhou Wen had never seen Gu Dian so gentle to others, nor had he seen him speak to people in such a gentle manner. This was completely different from the Gu Dian he knew. "Hurry up and eat." Gu Dian squatted beside Zhou Wen, who was placed beside a saucer containing milk. The 4 cats looked at him covetously, but didn't dare come over. They only meowed from afar. "Little May, Little Yang, you can't be like that. It's the same as you, pitiful and homeless. You should all love one another," Gu Dian said to the 4 cats. Zhou Wen had goosebumps all over his body when he heard that. He turned around to leave. In order to prevent Gu Dian from catching him again, he used all his strength to run. However, after he ran some distance, he couldn't hear Gu Dian's footsteps behind him. Instead, he heard an unfamiliar man's voice coming from afar. "Have you done what I asked you to do? It's been so long, yet you can't handle such a trivial matter. Are you afraid of Zhou Wen?" Zhou Wen didn't plan on stopping, but after running a few steps, he heard his name. He couldn't help but stop and look over. He saw a boy in a school uniform standing opposite Gu Dian. Zhou Wen didn't know the boy, but he looked like an upperclassman. He was slightly older than him. "Why do you want to do something to Zhou Wen?" Gu Dian asked the boy. "You don't need to know. You just need to do as I say." The boy pursed his lips and said, "I'll give you 3 more days. If you haven't carried out my instructions, I'm afraid I won't be able to help you keep that secret anymore. Think it through carefully." After that, the boy turned around and left with a cold face. Based on Zhou Wen's understanding, he didn't think Gu Dian was someone who was afraid of anything. If someone dared to threaten him like this, no matter who he was, he would probably throw a punch over, right? But this time, Gu Dian watched helplessly as the arrogant boy left. He didn't show any intention of resorting to violence. Zhou Wen was very curious. He didn't know who the boy was. What was he planning to get Gu Dian to do? What skeleton in Gu Dian's closet was he aware of? After some thought, Zhou Wen decided to hang around. He wanted to figure out what was going on. After all, this matter involved him. If he didn't figure out who the mastermind was, something similar might happen in the future. Zhou Wen walked to Gu Dian's side. When Gu Dian saw him, his ferocious expression turned gentle. He squatted down and placed the milk saucer in front of Zhou Wen. "Eat quickly." Zhou Wen was a little anxious. Gu Dian clearly wasn't someone who liked to talk. It might be unrealistic to wait for him to mutter to himself about what had happened. How can I get Gu Dian to tell me the entire story? Countless thoughts flashed through Zhou Wen's mind, but he failed to come up with a solution. Ask Gu Dian after transforming back into a human. This clearly wasn't a good idea. His relationship with Gu Dian wasn't that close. Their relationship was only slightly better than that of an unfamiliar classmate. If he were to ask him directly, they might fall out on the spot. Even if he didn't fall out with Gu Dian probably wouldn't tell him anything given his personality. As Zhou Wen pondered, Gu Dian nudged the milk towards Zhou Wen's mouth. How could Zhou Wen drink milk meant for cats? He subconsciously turned his head to the side, indicating that he didn't want to drink it. However, when Zhou Wen's action landed in Gu Dian's eyes, he sighed softly. "Do you also think that it's not right? Do you think I'm wrong?" Zhou Wen subconsciously nodded, but just as he nodded, he regretted it. He was a cat, so how could he understand Gu Dian's words? Gu Dian looked at Zhou Wen in surprise. However, his ability to accept the cat's actions was clearly stronger than Zhou Wen had imagined. He didn't suspect Zhou Wen at all, believing that he was a very intelligent cat. "I also know that this isn't right, but if I don't do it, they will spread the news of me possessing the bloodline of a dimensional creature. When that happens, everyone will treat me like a monster and not a person," Gu Dian said. Zhou Wen nearly cried out in surprise. He never expected Gu Dian to have the bloodline of a dimensional creature. Could it be that Gu Dian's father or mother is a dimensional creature? Can humans and dimensional creatures mate to give birth to offspring? Countless strange thoughts flashed through Zhou Wen's mind. But for so long, Zhou Wen and company have treated me like an ordinary person. They aren't afraid of me because of my looks. They don't ostracize me, and they treat me as one of theirs. How can I do something like that? Tell me, what should I do? Gu Dian said bitterly and looked at Zhou Wen. Gu Dian had no chance of making friends with humans because of his own problems. Furthermore, he didn't know how to communicate with humans. Instead, he could pour out his heartfelt feelings in front of a cat. Wasn't this also a tragedy? Beat him up and beat that turtle's son to death. Who cares about you being human? Ignoring the fact that you have a dimensional creature bloodline, I wouldn't mind even if you were a beast. Zhou Wen wanted to say that, but the moment he opened his mouth, it turned into a meow. Zhou Wen had no choice but to raise one paw and point in the direction the boy had left. He forcefully pointed a few times, indicating for Gu Dian to beat him up. Gu Dian seemed to understand something when he saw Zhou Wen's reaction. His eyes turned determined. "I know what to do," Gu Dian said to Zhou Wen before standing up and chasing after the boy. Zhou Wen hesitated for a moment before chasing after him. He still wanted to know why the boy was targeting him. He might be able to hear the reason why later. However, after becoming a cat, Zhou Wen's essence energy was completely gone. His fastest speed was only the speed of a normal cat, so how could he catch up to Gu Dian? By the time he caught up, he saw that Gu Dian was already standing in front of the boy, seemingly talking to him. "I can't do that to Zhou Wen." "Change the condition," Zhou Wen vaguely heard Gu Dian say. "Change to another condition. What right do you have to bargain with me? Don't tell me you really think Zhou Wen and company think of you as a friend. They only want to make use of you because you are foolish and powerful." If they know that you have a dimensional creature bloodline, you think they would still be willing to let you stay in the Xianxia club. When that happens, they will only treat you as a monster, a pig or dog. It's like you are a beast, the boy said as he pointed at Gu Dian's nose. Chapter 496, Why Not? This has nothing to do with you, Gu Dian said with his head lowered. Why doesn't it have anything to do with me? After all, we're good friends, aren't we? The boy smiled and patted Gu Dian's shoulder. He continued, Have you forgotten our friendship? I've always remembered it. Gu Dian's pupils constricted, but he remained silent. Think about it carefully. The current Zhou Wen is the second me in the future. The boy narrowed his eyes and said, Birds of a feather flock together. Your birth has already determined that you won't have any true human friends. Other than people like me, humans won't accept a monster like you. If you don't touch Zhou Wen now, when he learns your true identity in the future, he will no longer hesitate to draw a line with you or even kill you. After a pause, the boy said, Don't tell me you don't know what happened to his teacher. Do you think he'll still admit that he's Wang Minjuan's student? If Wang Minjuan appears again, he might even kill him. That has nothing to do with me, Gu Dian said expressionlessly. It has nothing to do with you. In that case, even if everyone knows how your mother gave birth to you, will there not be a problem? The boy narrowed his eyes and stared at Gu Dian. Gu Dian's expression changed drastically as he suddenly looked up and glared at the boy. Lu Kaide, if you dare say a word, I'll definitely kill you. I'm just saying. How can it be leaked? We're friends. I'll definitely keep your matter a secret for you. I won't let anyone know about it. However, you have to help me settle Zhou Wen's matter. Otherwise, I won't be able to live. Some things are hard to say. As Lu Kaide was speaking, he suddenly saw a cat leap up. Its claws scratched his face ruthlessly, leaving a few bloody marks on his face. After listening for a long time, Zhou Wen nearly exploded in anger. Although he didn't hear the complete story, he could roughly guess what had happened. Gu Dian wasn't a normal human, and it wasn't his fault. It stemmed from the previous generation. He did not know what method Lu Kaide had used to become Gu Dian's friend. Furthermore, he knew of his secret, so he ended up using it to threaten Gu Dian. Zhou Wen could understand why Gu Dian didn't counterattack. He was the same as Gu Dian. He didn't wish to bring anyone trouble, especially his family. If it was only a matter of his identity, he believed that Gu Dian wouldn't be threatened by him. He would have beaten him to the point of his mother not even being capable of recognizing him. However, this involved Gu Dian's mother's reputation. Therefore, even though Gu Dian was extremely furious, he didn't dare make a move on Lu Kaide. Without a doubt, Lu Kaide wasn't a fool. He definitely had some evidence in hand. Furthermore, even if he died, the evidence would still be spread. Only then could he threaten Gu Dian. The more he understood Gu Dian, the more upset Zhou Wen felt. When he saw Lu Kaide's wretched face, he couldn't help but swipe his claw at him. Now, Zhou Wen only hated himself for losing his strength. If not, he would definitely have smacked Lu Kaide's face until it bled. Damn cat, Gu Dian, you bastard. Look at what you raise. Lu Kaide was enraged as he attempted to grab Zhou Wen. Zhou Wen ran and jumped onto Gu Dian's back. Stop! Gu Dian blocked Lu Kaide. Get out of the way. I'm going to kill this bastard, Lu Kaide said as he attempted to grab Zhou Wen. Zhou Wen leaned on Gu Dian's shoulder and looked at him with a faint smile as though he was mocking him. Gu Dian didn't make way. Instead, he reached out to stop Lu Kaide. Lu Kaide was extremely furious, but he was stopped by Gu Dian and couldn't capture Zhou Wen. He didn't give up because of this. He took 2 steps back and suddenly summoned a companion beast. The companion beast was a strange throwing dagger. After flying out, it circled around Gu Dian and stabbed at Zhou Wen's back. It was as fast as lightning. Zhou Wen was alarmed as he cursed inwardly. He was only a cat, so it was probably difficult for him to dodge such a fast-throwing dagger. A huge hand suddenly grabbed the throwing dagger's blade. The throwing dagger trembled incessantly in Gu Dian's hand, but failed to escape his grip. "Gu Dian, release it," Lu Kide bellowed angrily. "He's just a cat." Gu Dian held the throwing dagger without letting go. Blood dripped from between his fingers. "I'll say it one last time. Let go. Otherwise, everything about you will spread throughout Luoyang tomorrow," Lu Kide said angrily as he glared at Gu Dian. Gu Dian held the throwing dagger and refused to let go. He didn't say a word and only looked at Lu Kide. Lu Kide was even more infuriated as he summoned another saber and slashed at Gu Dian. He shouted, "Get out of the way, do you hear me?" Gu Dian didn't move. He was struck on the shoulder by Lu Kide, causing blood to spray out. However, Gu Dian's body was indeed resilient. The strike only lacerated him. It failed to reach his bones. Lu Kide refused to give up. He slashed at Gu Dian's body again and again, leaving bloody marks on Gu Dian's body. Even his face was lacerated. It had to be said that Gu Dian's body was truly resilient. Despite such strikes, he only suffered superficial injuries. When the blade struck his bones, it produced the humming sounds of metal clashing. The reason Lu Kide was so furious wasn't entirely because Zhou Wen had scratched his face. Instead, it was because Gu Dian had repeatedly disobeyed his orders. He wanted to teach him a lesson, so Zhou Wen scratching his face was just an excuse. Beat him up. Zhou Wen was anxious when he saw Gu Dian stand motionless, allowing Lu Kide to slash him. "Do you think of yourself as one of these beasts? Do you think they are more important than your life? Monsters are monsters," Lu Kide cursed as he slashed. When Zhou Wen saw Gu Dian motionless, he couldn't stand it any longer. He took a chance and darted out from his shoulder. His claws flailed as he clawed at Lu Kide's eyes. Lu Kide never expected a cat to pass through his series of blade attacks. At the close distance, Zhou Wen's claw had injured his left eye. With one hand covering his eyes, blood immediately seeped out from the gaps between his fingers. "I'm going to kill you." Lu Kide covered his eye in rage as the saber in his hand transformed into a saber beam that slashed at Zhou Wen. This fellow's strength wasn't bad. Zhou Wen had never heard his name, so it was obvious that he wasn't famous in school. However, he had top legendary strength. Clearly, he had been hiding his strength. From this point, it was obvious that he wasn't an ordinary person. He definitely had ulterior motives. Gu Dian's eyes widened when he saw that Zhou Wen was about to be hit by the saber beam. He suddenly unleashed his strength, as his powerful body charged into the saber beams. He grabbed Zhou Wen with one hand and struck out with the other. With an explosive sound, the sky was filled with saber beams. The long saber in Lu Kide's hand shattered inch by inch. His body was also sent flying by the force, and he fell 7 to 8 meters away. The hand which had held the saber was trembling and bleeding. "Gu Dian, you dare attack me?" Lu Kide widened his eyes as he stared at Gu Dian with gritted teeth as though he wanted to bite someone. Why wouldn't he dare? A voice sounded from the corner of the building. Lu Kide and Gu Dian trembled as they couldn't help but turn their heads. They saw a young officer in a military uniform and white gloves walking over. He looked gentle and mild. "He's finally here." Zhou Wen heaved a long sigh of relief. Chapter 497, A Little Cold. Zhou Wen knew that he was only a cat and had lost his strength. He definitely couldn't handle the present situation. Thankfully, he still had the ability to text. Previously, he had contacted Sheng when he saw Gu Dian's phone left where he fed the cats. He told him to rush over as soon as possible. This matter wasn't something that could be resolved by force. Even killing Lu Kide was useless. Otherwise, Gu Dian would have settled it himself and wouldn't have been threatened by Lu Kide. When Lu Kide saw Sheng, he immediately turned around and wanted to run. He hadn't managed to take a few steps before Sheng placed a dagger by his neck. "What are you doing?" "I'm a student at the college," Lu Kide calmed down and asked. Sheng said indifferently, "I don't need to know who you are, but you're dead." "Gu Dian, why aren't you saving me?" Lu Kide shouted in Gu Dian's direction. Sheng said to Gu Dian unhurriedly, "Zhou Wen asked me to come. He has already told me about your matter. He wants me to pass on the message to believe him. Leave everything to me." "Gu Dian, you know what will happen if I die." Lu Kide knew that Gu Dian was his straw to clutch at. He had heard of Sheng's name before. Having come to Luoyang to carry out a mission, how could he not know the famous Sheng? Gu Dian hugged Zhou Wen and pondered for a moment before nodding slightly at Sheng. The corners of Sheng's mouth curled up as he revealed a smile. The dagger in his hand had already pressed into Lu Kide's skin. "Just answer whatever I ask." "I don't want to hear any nonsense," Sheng said. Lu Kide opened his mouth to say something, but Sheng continued, "If you waste my time, I don't mind using the memory stripping spell to directly obtain the information I want from your brain." Lu Kide's expression changed drastically, as if he was hesitating about something. "Don't try to commit suicide. If I don't let you die, even the king of hell can't take your life," Sheng said indifferently. "If I tell you everything, can you give me a way out?" Lu Kide said through gritted teeth. "Yes," Sheng replied. "Swear on it." Lu Kide had no other choice. He was already a piece of meat on the chopping block. He could only take a gamble. He did not want to die. Sheng's expression didn't change. He swore that if he went against his word, he would die a horrible death. Then, he asked Lu Kide about Gu Dian. Due to Gu Dian's presence, Lu Kide didn't seem to lie. He explained everything clearly. He had a voice recording of Gu Dian. It was a conversation with Gu Dian. Back then, Gu Dian had treated him as his only good friend, so he had told him everything. Lu Kide had not given this recording to anyone. He had only registered a few accounts online and scheduled an automatic release. If no one changed the release time, the recording and the article he had written would be released. Sheng didn't listen to the recording. He just deleted everything. "Where are the backups?" "Don't tell me there aren't any." After Sheng deleted it, he looked at Lu Kide and asked, "In an ancient Greek book on my dorm mate's bookshelf." "No one will read it," Lu Kide answered. Following that, Sheng asked about Lu Kide's origins. He admitted that he was a field agent nurtured by the Special Inspector Bureau. He had entered Sunset College to monitor the N family and Sunset College's chancellor and tutors. He had recently received a mission to think of a way to bring Zhou Wen back to the headquarters, which was why he had used Gu Dian. After a long while, Lu Kide said, "I've said everything. Can you let me go now?" "You have said everything, but how do I know if what you said is the truth?" Sheng looked at Lu Kide calmly. "I'm telling the truth. At this stage, there's no need for me to lie to you," Lu Kide said. "That might not be the case. It's a very important matter. I have to verify it myself," Sheng said as a black flame arose from his body. The flames floated towards Lu Kide like ghosts and drilled into his brain. "Ah, you swore to let me live, otherwise you will die a horrible death," Lu Kide exclaimed in horror. He had roughly guessed that Sheng was trying to strip his souls and memories from him. Despite struggling desperately, he was unable to move his body. "Before you came to Luoyang, you should have known that I have the nickname of Devil's Adjutant, right? Is there a devil who abides by an agreement?" Sheng said to Lu Kide with a smile. You can't do this to me, you can't." Lu Kide was shocked and furious, his eyes filled with despair, anger, and indignation. The pain that went straight into his soul seemed to slice his brain bit by bit. It made him want to scream in pain, but he could not make a sound despite his open mouth. Sheng only looked at him coldly as the black flames on his body seeped into his brain. Lu Kai's eyes gradually lost focus. When the demonic-like flames drilled out of Lu Kai's brain and returned to Sheng, Lu Kai had already become a cold corpse. Even in death, his face was contorted with pain. Sheng opened the foldable cloth bag he had brought and stored Lu Kai's corpse inside. After he slung it over his shoulder, he said to Gu Dian, "In the future, other than Zhou Wen and me, no one will know about your matters. Unfortunately, there's no way to silence me and Zhou Wen. You can leave it at that." Thanks. Gu Dian said those two words somewhat awkwardly. He had never said it before. Don't say those words. You don't need to thank anyone because that person is your friend. After Sheng said that, he left with Lu Kai's corpse. Friend? Gu Dian's expression turned odd. In the past, he might have believed that there were friends. At that time, he was moved by Lu Kai and treated him as a real friend. In the end, all he got was a betrayal. Ever since then, he preferred to be with cats than humans. He no longer believed in humans or friends. Although he still did not believe it, there was a slight change in his heart. At the very least, Gu Dian believed that once this matter was resolved, he no longer needed to be threatened and do things he didn't wish to do. I am finally free. Gu Dian snapped to his senses and raised the cat in his arms. He smiled. In his opinion, this little cat had given him luck, allowing him to finally be himself. Gu Dian held the cat up in the air as he revealed a smile that came from the bottom of his heart. Although he was still as ferocious as before, it made it difficult for people to not smile with him. The tabby cat also revealed a smile. At that moment, Gu Dian suddenly felt the cat in his hand become heavier. Its body also changed. In a blink of an eye, the cat that Gu Dian was raising had transformed into a living man. Their eyes met, and the air seemed to freeze at that instant. The smile on Gu Dian and Zhou Wen's faces gradually vanished. A gentle breeze blew past Zhou Wen, making him feel a little cold. Chapter 498, Torch Dragon. After returning to his dorm, Zhou Wen cursed inwardly. I have to crack Chess Mountain's dungeon. Prepare everything I need in a week. Otherwise, it won't be as simple as being a cat next time. The Theurch sent a message. Clearly, the Theurch hadn't planned on permanently changing Zhou Wen into a cat. She just did it as a warning. Now, Zhou Wen was filled with regret. If he had known, he would have stayed in his dorm obediently. Why did he go out? Thinking back to the scene of his eyes meeting Gu Dian, he wished he could find a hole to hide in. Zhou Wen had already made up his mind to think of a way to conquer Chess Mountain and pull the Theurch out. He would also transform her into a cat and raise her up high. However, he had to feign civility now. He couldn't let her notice any problems. Once he cracked Chess Mountain and found her weaknesses, he would personally go to Chess Mountain and deal with her. I'll buy it as soon as possible, Zhou Wen replied. After some thought, Zhou Wen sent another message. Previously, I was chased by someone and fled into a dimensional zone. I discovered a huge snake there. Zhou Wen described the snake's physical characteristics and abilities. He wanted to ask if the Theurch knew what dimensional creature it was. Since he could not do anything to the Theurch, he might as well make use of her. What snake? That's Torch Dragon, one of the dragon species. It has powerful abilities, and a pair of eyes can affect the day and night. When it opens its eyes, it will be bright. When it closes its eyes, it will be dark. It's an extremely powerful ancient creature. Although it's far inferior to me, it's not something a mere human like you can match. It's your good fortune to be able to come back alive after meeting it, the Theurch replied. You sure are knowledgeable. That Torch Dragon's eyes are indeed very powerful. It can kill many human experts with just a glance. It's practically invincible. I wonder if you can crack its terrifying ability. Zhou Wen sent another message. That's called the Bright Torch Vision World. It's not a bad ability, but what's so difficult about cracking it? I just need to use an invisibility spell to prevent it from seeing me. When that happens, I can kill it as I please, the Thirch replied. Could it be that even someone as strong as you can't fight Torch Dragon head-on? Zhou Wen deliberately said. The Thirch's solution was similar to Zhou Wen's idea. However, although he had the invisibility cloak, it was still impossible to hatch it. He couldn't be invisible. The Thirch was a proud person, so she immediately replied, "It's not easy to defeat it head-on. I can kill it with a wave of my hand, making it unable to open its eyes. Or perhaps I can use a treasure mirror to reflect its gaze and make it have a taste of its own medicine." You sure are resourceful. I wonder what kind of treasure mirror can reflect Torch Dragon's bright torch vision world. Zhou Wen was delighted when he learned that. If he could reflect the bright torch vision world with just a mirror, then there was a chance of him killing Torch Dragon. There was no need to acquire an invisibility cloak. Don't tell me you want to kill Torch Dragon. You have a death wish. The Thirch had clearly seen through him as she sent a message. I'm just asking. How would I dare kill Torch Dragon? Zhou Wen denied. The mirrors that you humans create have very good reflective effects. It would be enough to reflect Torch Dragon's bright torch vision world. However, those mirrors are too brittle. They shatter when encountering external forces. Other than the bright torch vision world, Torch Dragon's body is not something a mere human can deal with. If you wish to die, you can give it a try. Upon hearing the Thirch's words, Zhou Wen was truly excited. He never expected an ordinary mirror to be able to deal with Torch Dragon. This boosted his chances of killing it. I'm just asking. Even if Torch Dragon invites me to kill it, I'm not free. I still have to help you buy things. By the way, I also encountered a terrifying dimensional creature. It looks like a wolf and tiger, but it's not one. Zhou Wen continued to gather information from the Thirch. The Thirch really knew everything. She told Zhou Wen that it was one of the 4 ancient ferocious beasts, Xianxia. Not only did it possess the ability to devour everything, but it also possessed terrifying speed. It was even harder to deal with than Torch Dragon. Furthermore, the Thirch also told Zhou Wen something quite strange. She said that if she wanted to deal with Xianxia, she had to find an evil person to deal with it. The possibility of killing him would then be very high. If a good person were to fight Xianxia, even if the good person's combat ability was the same as that evil person's, or even stronger, there was a high chance that he wouldn't be able to defeat Xianxia and would end up being devoured. Zhou Wen was doubtful. He didn't know if the Thirch was speaking the truth or just joking. Zhou Wen admitted that he wasn't a good person, but he wasn't a person who committed heinous crimes. Therefore, he couldn't test it out. Remember, you only have a week. If I don't see those things again, prepare to suffer. The Thirch sent the last message and ignored Zhou Wen. Zhou Wen contacted Lai Xuan and gave him the list, asking if he could help buy the items. After a while, Lai Xuan replied that it wasn't a problem. Zhou Wen transferred the money to him and made him use the Lai family's resources to help him purchase the items. As for him, he considered how to kill Torch Dragon. Although he knew that mirrors might be helpful in killing Torch Dragon, ordinary mirrors couldn't be taken in-game. Zhou Wen had no way of testing the feasibility of this theory. Head straight to the Zhualu ruins in person. Zhou Wen didn't dare take the risk. Ignoring the fact that the Thirch might be holding back the truth, even if it was the truth, the mirror could only reflect the bright torch vision world. It wasn't of much use against Torch Dragon's other abilities. Furthermore, it was too easy to shatter. If an accident happened, Zhou Wen would have to pay with his life. How can I take a mirror into the game? Zhou Wen thought for a moment before checking online to see if there were any companion beasts that could transform into mirrors. He found quite a number of them. For example, there was a clear jade immortal mirror in the Kunlun immortal realm that could turn into an ancient mirror. However, that thing was relatively rare. Furthermore, the Kunlun immortal realm was too dangerous. It was almost impossible for an epic to leave alive, and it was too far away from Zhou Wen. The other places with mirror-type companion beasts were either too far or too dangerous. Just as Zhou Wen was fretting, he accidentally saw some introductions of companion beasts in the West District. His eyes lit up. Among those companion beasts, there was an epic companion beast named Sun Beast. Its companion form was a mirror, and it had excellent reflective ability. Most importantly, the place where Sun Beast spawned was in Zhou Wen's game. It was called Music Temple. Chapter 499, Musical Fountain Square. Zhou Wen picked up his phone and started the Music Temple dungeon. He had come once before, but because the first part of the journey was only filled with legendary-level musical note sprites, Zhou Wen felt that it was meaningless to continue grinding. He never expected there to be such a good item like a Sun Beast in the Music Temple. Now, he was in urgent need of a mirror-type companion beasts, so he rushed in without any hesitation to grind the Sun Beast. According to the online information, Zhou Wen knew that a dimensional creature like a Sun Beast was actually very rare in Music Temple. Only one would occasionally appear. Basically, very few people saw two or more Sun Beasts appear in the Music Temple at the same time. Moreover, the Sun Beast was not the real boss of Music Temple. It was said that in the deepest part of the music hall, there was a lyre. Anyone who had seen the lyre would die. Zhou Wen found it very contradictory. Since the people who had seen lyre were all dead, how could anyone know that there was a lyre? Therefore, sometimes, legends were just legends. They couldn't be taken at face value. Zhou Wen didn't plan on finding the lyre. After entering Music Temple with his pets, he ran towards the area mentioned online. He wanted to see if there were any Sun Beasts in-game. Legend had it that the Sun Beast's body was glowing like a small sun. One could see it from afar, and it would usually appear at the musical fountain square in Music Temple. Zhou Wen ran all the way to the musical fountain square. With the six-winged guardian dragon and fire furnace queen leading the way, Zhou Wen killed many of the musical note sprites and had many crystals and companion eggs drop. Zhou Wen realized that there were a total of 7 types of musical note sprites. Furthermore, each of them only had one essence energy skill, which were all different. Although they were different, the effects were similar. They were all sound blasts. They didn't seem too different to Zhou Wen. In the beginning, Zhou Wen didn't mind, but as he killed them, he found it interesting. These sound wave attacks formed a blast through the vibrations of the medium and superimposed waves. The 7 different sound waves formed different shock waves. This intrigued Zhou Wen as he hatched some musical note sprites. As he rode on 6 wings back and constantly advanced, he was studying the sound wave attacks of the musical note sprites. After killing countless musical note sprites, he finally arrived at the musical fountain square. In the huge square, there were 7 fountains. The fountains did not continuously spray water pillars, but seemed to follow the music. They were rhythmic jets that shot to varying heights, not even shooting upwards at times. It looked very interesting. And in the musical fountain square, there were musical note sprites floating everywhere. They were colorful and had wings as they danced in the air. They were similar to the colorful paper used at Chinese weddings, but there were more of them. The 6-winged guardian dragon roared as demonic flames erupted from its body. Instantly, a large number of musical note sprites were killed. However, the musical fountain square was quite large, and there were musical note sprites everywhere. Very quickly, new ones rushed over. As he got his companion beast to kill the musical note sprites, Zhou Wen looked around to find the Sun Beast. However, after scanning the entire square, he didn't see the legendary Sun Beast that resembled a miniature sun. Instead, a strange dimensional creature attracted Zhou Wen's attention. Ever since he entered Music Temple, the dimensional creatures he saw were all kinds of musical note sprites. There were probably 7 types. However, the dimensional creature he saw this time wasn't a musical note sprite. It was a golden harp, but it didn't look like metal. Instead, it was carved out of wood. There were gorgeous, exquisite patterns on it. The last time Zhou Wen went to the Peninsula of Gods, he had learned about the various musical instruments. He had seen huge harps. However, the harp in front of him was very small. It was about the same size as a violin. Furthermore, it had a pair of wings like the other musical note sprites. It also had a pair of resplendent golden wings. Sensing Zhou Wen's companion beasts wreaking havoc on the musical fountain square, the strings on the harp moved automatically, producing melodious sounds. Although its music was beautiful, it sounded a little monotonous. Zhou Wen didn't notice any offensive sound waves. In other words, it wasn't attacking him. However, in the next second, Zhou Wen discovered a strange scene. With the sound of the harp, countless musical note sprites started to arrange themselves in a regular pattern on the square. They also produced sounds that seemed to respond to the playing harp. Hum! The countless musical note sprites in the music square seemed to form a resonance as they emitted a massive sound wave. The power of the sound wave was able to instantly kill a powerful epic creature like the Fire Furnace Queen and White Shadow of Poison. Their bodies were instantly obliterated by the sound wave. Even the six-winged guardian dragon retreated a few steps back under the impact of the sound waves. The demonic flames on its body flickered continuously. Roar! The six-winged guardian dragon flew into a rage and let out a furious roar. The demonic flames on its back rose and turned into four wings, making it enter the six-winged state. It spat out poisonous breath that transformed into a terrifying tidal wave in a bid to eliminate all the musical note sprites. The strings of the harp kept sounding, and the entire musical fountain square's musical note sprites resonated with it, sending out terrifying sound waves to resist the six-winged guardian dragon's poison breath. The mighty six-winged guardian dragon was actually held back by the sound wave attack. Under the vibrations of the sound waves, poison breath was torn apart. The six-winged guardian dragon's body seemed to be moving in the opposite direction, unable to move forward. As for the blood-colored avatar, it had already retreated out of the musical fountain square under Zhou Wen's control and transformed into the demon dragon true body. Only then could he withstand the sound waves attack. Zhou Wen wasn't alarmed but delighted because he saw a possibility. There were the most legendary dimensional creatures, so their companion eggs dropped the most. However, no matter how many legendary companion eggs there were, even if they could form an army, their actual combat strength wasn't high. This was because the suppression from absolute strength was redoubtable. Even if there were thousands of skeleton soldiers, they wouldn't be able to kill an epic human. Therefore, low-level companion beast legions were basically useless against powerful dimensional creatures. However, the golden harp and the musical note sprites were actually able to combine their powers to fight against the six-winged guardian dragon. This was rather impressive. There are so many musical note sprites in Music Temple. The chances of companion eggs dropping aren't low either. If I have the ability of the golden harp, would I be able to form an army of musical note sprites? Zhou Wen thought. Chapter 500, Golden Harp. The six-winged guardian dragon was actually unable to gain the upper hand, despite clashing with sound waves head-on. It was forced back by the sound waves again and again, unable to charge forward. However, those sound waves were unable to harm the six-winged guardian dragon. They could only temporarily hold it back. Every time the six-winged guardian dragon launched an attack, a portion of the musical note sprites would be quaked to death. As the number of musical note sprites decreased, the sound wave also weakened. It was only a matter of time before the harp and the musical note sprites were defeated. Zhou Wen didn't think the golden harp was useless because of this. After all, the musical note sprites that it had gathered were only at the legendary stage. If a large number of epic-level musical note sprites could enter its ranks, the sound waves produced wouldn't be that simple. As long as sufficiently strong ones were included, it might be possible to defeat a mythical creature. Zhou Wen wasn't in the mood to wait for the six-winged guardian dragon to defeat it. He secretly summoned demonic neonate, and she found an opportunity to secretly release her flying sword. The flying sword flew through the air during the gap in the sound waves, slicing the golden harp in half. After all, it was only at the epic stage. Without the resonance power of the musical notes, it was unable to block demonic neonate's flying sword. Killed epic creature, golden harp. Discovered companion egg. Zhou Wen was delighted. He never expected his luck to be so good today. A companion egg dropped in his first try. After losing the conformity provided by the golden harp, the hundreds of thousands of musical note sprites were reduced to a leaderless mob. They were no longer able to fight the six-winged guardian dragon. The six-winged guardian dragon charged forward and killed large numbers of musical note sprites amid the raging demonic flames. Many crystals and companion eggs dropped. Due to the massive numbers killed, even if the drop rate wasn't high, many companion eggs would drop. Zhou Wen controlled the blood-colored avatar and picked up the companion eggs of the golden harp and the ordinary musical note sprites, choosing to hatch them. In a short while, Zhou Wen hatched more than 100 musical note sprites. 7 tiny musical symbols appeared on his left arm. Each of the music symbols had a saturated color. The same companion beast would have a tattoo in the same spot. It would overlap, and the more there were, the more saturated the color of the tattoo. The stats of the musical note sprites were mostly the same. All of them only had sound wave techniques, so there wasn't much of a difference. Therefore, Zhou Wen didn't look at them carefully and focused on the stats of the golden harp. Golden harp, epic. Life providence, symphony of fate. Life soul, spirit of music. Strength, 32. Speed, 39. Constitution, 31. Essence energy, 40. Talent skill, first movement of the symphony of fate. Companion form, none. Zhou Wen couldn't help but be delighted when he read the various information regarding the golden harp. Its ability wasn't as simple as just coordinating the musical note sprites. As long as it was a music-type power, it could add it to the fray. If Zhou Wen could obtain a large number of high-level music-type creatures, epic or even mythical creatures, in the future, and then combine them with the power of the golden harp, the amount of power he could unleash was unimaginable. From this point of view, although the golden harp was only at the epic stage, its value was probably higher than some mythical creatures. Of course, the premise was that Zhou Wen had enough music-type companion beasts to work with the golden harp. Otherwise, its strength alone was considered at the bottom of the epic creatures. After all, the golden harp's attack wasn't strong. It could even be said to be very weak. After obtaining the golden harp, Zhou Wen was in a good mood. He got the six-winged guardian dragon to continue killing the musical note sprites. Now, he wasn't in a hurry to find the sun beast. Hundreds of thousands of musical note sprites on the square were wantonly killed by the six-winged guardian dragon. Zhou Wen followed behind to pick up the spoils. After the musical fountain square was cleared, Zhou Wen obtained a total of more than 200 musical note sprites. The pitiful baby tiger had been killed when the golden harp unleashed its might. Otherwise, there would have been more. There's no hurry. There's plenty of time to grind in the future. Sooner or later, I'll be able to form an army. Without discovering the sun beast, Zhou Wen led the six-winged guardian dragon forward and entered the temple behind the square. The moment he entered the temple, he saw a blob of light appear in the innermost hall. When the six-winged guardian dragon and the blood-colored avatar were seen, the blob of light that resembled a miniature sun immediately shot out a beam of light. The six-winged guardian dragon didn't hesitate to spit out a mouthful of demonic flames. When the light met the demonic flames, it didn't shatter. Instead, it was reflected away by the demonic flames. Rays of light shone on the walls and pillars of the palace, causing green smoke to appear from the spot that was illuminated. The demonic flames parted the beam and burned the sun beast's body. Zhou Wen didn't even see what the sun beast looked like before it was killed. Killed epic creature, sun beast. Discovered dimensional crystal. Zhou Wen looked over and realized that it was only a 34 valued strength crystal. It was completely useless. There were no other sun beasts or dimensional creatures in the temple. Zhou Wen circled around and left the temple before heading to the other buildings near Musical Fountain Square. On the other hand, he had found some other musical note sprites and an epic ranked musical frog. It was able to emit sound waves and was extremely fast, but it was still easily dispatched by the six-winged guardian dragon. After circling the buildings, apart from the music holy temple which he hadn't dared enter, Zhou Wen had nearly cleared the entire music temple. He didn't find the golden harp or sun beast again. Helpless, Zhou Wen had no choice but to leave the music temple dungeon and head to the metalwork temple to grind. He was rather lucky to obtain a runic heavy armored warrior companion egg, which he immediately hatched. Now, Zhou Wen was still thinking of a way to obtain an armor-type companion beast. The runic heavy armored warrior and the golden warrior had a compatibility score of more than 70. The success rate was very high, so Zhou Wen wasn't that unlucky the second time he fused them. With the legendary golden warrior as the main pet and the runic heavy armored warrior as supplementary, he combined it into an epic golden warrior. Golden warrior, epic. Life providence, golden evasion. Life soul, blessed combat runes. Zhou Wen was overjoyed when he saw the life providence and life soul. It was perfect, exactly what he wanted. However, after looking at his stats, Zhou Wen frowned again. The stats of the epic golden warrior were too low, 27, 32, 29, 34. Its skills weren't ideal either. It only had the golden bell and the fist of war. What should I use to fuse it again? Zhou Wen thought. The best fusion solution was naturally to obtain the three-eyed golden warrior's invulnerable golden body skill. This way, it could increase his stats and also possess a good skill. With the golden bell and invulnerable golden body, its defense could be improved. The only problem was that the drop rate of the three-eyed golden warrior companion egg was similarly low. Zhou Wen had been grinding dungeons recently. Every time he entered Music Temple, he would only encounter one sun beast. He also grinded the Metalwork Temple for three-eyed golden warriors. As for the golden harp, he had not seen it since the first time.